You are all muted. We will invite you to participate when your application is presented and the public comment is provided. There will be opportunities for that. In the meantime, if you could just sit tight as we're trying to get everybody here to get the meeting started. Let's see. Dennis, are you a call-in? Which call-in number? Is that you, Dennis? 97342. You are 732. So I don't see a 7. My email does not match my panel, so it's 732. Let me try and call.
I know Dennis's email changed at one point. Perhaps his old email address is the one that's in there. Changed at one point. Perhaps his old email address is the one that's in there.
I don't think so. He's been getting my email. I'll find out. I'm calling him right now. I think so. He's been getting my email. I'll find out. I'm calling him right now. Oh wait, maybe he's this. This might be him. Oh, wait. Hi, Dennis. This might be him. Yes, Dennis. I think I just unmuted. Okay, I think I. Are you 732492? Yep. I just. Are you 732492? Right. Are you participating in the meeting by cell? Right. Are you participating in the meeting by cell? Right. Okay. Well, I see. I can't make you a panelist, but I can unmute you. I just unmuted you, I believe, as an attendee. Well, did you hang up as an attendee? Because your number is showing on my screen. Hang up as an attendee because your number is showing on my screen. Oh. Yeah, if you come up as an attendee, I can make you a panelist. So come up, all right? Okay. So come up, all right? Okay. Okay. All right. Try again. I don't know why it would reject your email address. So try as an attendee. I don't know why it would reject your email address. So try as an attendee. Okay. All right. Bye-bye. Okay. Sorry about that. I think he'll be here shortly, okay? Here shortly, okay? So, John, I don't know what you want to do. Dennis is trying to, trying to join. He's not here yet. Carol's trying to join as well. He's not here yet. Carol's trying to join as well.
Janice, do you have the ability to call out from WebEx? Janice, do you have the ability to call out from WebEx?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
There's sometimes when you dial in, it gives you the option to have them call you, but I haven't figured out how to make that happen all the time. Sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't.
Right, and that's the program. We don't call. I don't do the calling. The program does. The platform does.
Program does it. And
The program does. The platform does.
program does it. And
Hello, it's Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Hello, it's Steve.
well, Steve?
Hi, Steve.
Well, Steve? Well, we'll try and wait until at least Dennis gets on, and we'll try and give Carol a chance also.
Right.
We'll try and give Carol a chance also.
Right.
But even before I go through the formalities, I want to get Dennis on.
Yeah. I think that's important. Yeah. I think that's important. We're having, I know Barton is having the same problem. The email. All right, okay.
Yeah, I tried to use my personal email, but I think I tried to use the instructions were sent to my work email, which is fine. It's just I had to switch it out before I could actually log in as a presenter.
Okay.
Or panelist, whatever it is.
Okay.
Or panelist, whatever it is.
Yeah. I think what happens is that if the email doesn't set up and it's not going to let you sign in as a panelist.
Right.
All right.
Right.
All right. All right.
Pardon me, Janet, this is Tony. May I ask you a quick question?
Yeah. Yeah.
I have nothing to share on the minutes because I was recused from the major item that was on August 10th. I'm also recused from 37 Orange Road. So may I ask you a favor such that if 423 Bloomfield Avenue is heard tonight, could you text me like you did before and I'll rejoin the call?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks very much. Maybe I'll see you all later. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye. Okay. Dennis. Okay, I see Dennis is here. I made you a panelist. I don't know if you've got audio yet, Dennis, but your name is up there. We got you. We got you connected. Tim Barr, I see you're here. I just made you a panelist, okay? All right. The only one I haven't heard from yet is Carol, but I sent her the information, so she should be able to click on some of those links. So, John, I don't know if you want to start.
Yeah, let's go through the preliminaries.
All right.
Do we need to give Rick a couple minutes? 30 seconds?
Can we hold on just a second? Let me see. Hello, this is Janice.
Keith, we've been live on 34 for a while, I believe.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you.
John?
Yes.
Carol, let me, I'm trying to work Carol through the process. Carol, if you can't do the link, you can just dial in by phone. No, but you can dial into the meeting by the phone. You're talking to me personally. Okay, so you're already connected to the meeting? Okay. I will, all right, hold on. I'll try and work that out, okay? All right. All right, I'm sorry for the delay. I was trying to work out some of the kinks for some of the board members. I think we're ready to start the meeting. Let me just check one thing here. Dennis, can you hear us?
Yes,
Okay, good. So Dennis, you're on.
yes, I am.
746. All right. So let's start the meeting, okay?
All right. Good evening, everyone. Go ahead, Janice.
All right, now we're recording. I wasn't recording before. All right.
All right, again, good evening, everyone. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Montclair Planning Board. This meeting is being broadcast live on Channel 34 and streamed on YouTube. And it will be available for future viewing on YouTube. Notice of this building was meeting was posted in the municipal building and also published in the local papers, as well as being posted online on the township's website. This is a quasi-judicial proceeding, and we will be exercising powers and procedures that resemble a court of law, as we are obligated to act objectively in determining facts and drawing conclusions, and those conclusions will be used to provide the basis of official action of the board. So questions and comments during these proceedings should be limited only to issues that the board may legitimately consider in reaching their decision, and the quorum appropriate for a judicial proceeding is expected to be maintained at all times. First thing on our agenda this evening is our roll call.
So board members, if you can unmute yourselves, I'm going to do the roll call. Chair Nguyen?
Here.
Vice Chair Brodock?
I'm here.
Mayor Spiller?
Present.
Mr. Cook?
Yeah.
Councilor Schlager? Here. Ms. Willis? I believe she might be listening on the phone. She's having connection problems. Mr. Rooney?
Here.
Mr. Ian Wally is excused for the first half of the meeting. Ms. Lockman? Here. Mr. Barr? I saw your name there, Tim.
Here.
I see you're here.
I muted, I unmuted. Can you hear me?
Okay. I can hear you now, yep. And Mr. Gilmer is excused. Okay, we've got.
Okay, we have our minutes from the August 10th meeting.
Right, I received comments on the minutes from Ms. Lockman. And she had a couple of questions on the minutes on page 2. She wanted to know what the response was to a question from the public regarding the parking requirement. There was no answer that was given to that. So it was the question, if you look at the minutes, the public was invited to question Mr. Raker. A member of the public asked if there was any structural or engineering standard preventing the applicant from meeting the parking requirement. That was not answered.
Maybe you should say that. No answer was given.
Sure. And your second question, Carmel, was at the end about the affordable units. I did listen to the meeting again, and Mr. Raker did testify in his opinion that the affordable units were generous in size. That was what his testimony was.
Yeah, that's correct. But there was a lot of discussion about not just the size, but things like bathrooms, which they added, by the way, probably after our discussion.
Right.
They added the bathroom. So, but I guess you're just dealing with Riker's, or Racker's, whatever his name is, testimony.
Right.
Okay.
And I can certainly add the additional information that you want about the interior features that differ from the market rate units.
Okay, I would say that.
Okay. Are there any other changes to the minutes? Motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Who was that? Was that Carmel?
Me.
Second?
Second.
That was okay. That was Robin?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Is there anybody opposed? And anybody abstaining? Okay. And the minutes are approved as amended. So our next application is HP 37 Orange Road. What I'm going to do is make the attorney a panelist. Tom Troutner, I brought you on as a panelist. Let's see who else is here. I see Tom. I see you have Jack Raker. I made him a panelist as well. And Brian Stolar. So you now have the opportunity to speak on this. Those of you who are here from the public, when we get to public comments after the presentation is made, you'll have the opportunity to make comments. Okay? So, John, if you want to take over.
Let's go. Tom, you ready?
Yeah, we're ready. Great. Thank you, everyone, and good evening. So on behalf of the applicant, HP 37 Orange Road, Montclair LLC, following our last meeting, we examined Montclair's affordable housing ordinances, and while the ordinances talk about the exterior of units, we agree with John Kelly's comments and the planning board's comments regarding the concerns about comparable unit sizes and bathroom counts. And so in turn, our architect, Mr. Raker from Minnow and Wasco, spent some time amending our plans to address that issue, and we'll ask Mr. Raker to speak to that in just a moment. Another issue that had been raised during the hearing concerned a reduction in the unit count, which it went from 46 units to 40, which really addresses parking. Because that decrease in the unit count resulted in the reduction of affordable housing by 1 unit. To demonstrate our commitment to affordable housing, and while this isn't required, I wanted to state for the record, my client is prepared as a condition of site plan approval to make a cash in lieu contribution of $150,000 to the township's Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and that is the amount designated by Montclair's affordable housing ordinances, the amount of subsidy necessary to make 1 unit of housing affordable in Montclair. So by making this contribution, my client, in summary, is committing to have 4 affordable housing units on site, and to ensure that a 5th unit will be able to be built or created at an appropriate location to be determined by the township pursuant to its use of its Affordable Housing Trust Funds. But with that being said, I would ask Mr. Raker to be, I guess, sworn in again, and he can discuss with the board the updated plans that were submitted in advance of the next meeting, really addressing what we talked about a moment ago, the affordable unit sizes and bathroom counts.
All right. Mr. Raker, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Unmute, big guy.
Oh, we can't hear you.
Tom, what are you doing, kid?
My guess that Jack is probably trying to figure out how to connect his audio, which when I got elevated to participant or panelist status, I had to click on a certain button to do so. Hopefully he's working on that. I see him doing something in the background.
He's trying to connect, I can tell that.
I think you might be trying to dial in. It's like playing charades.
All right, then let me see. If you can tell me a number that he's dialing in from, I don't know which number it is.
Yeah, hold on one second. Let's see if I have it.
I mean, hopefully it uses the attendee ID, so it'll just link right into his account and elevate him right into panelist.
Okay.
Hello?
Who is that?
You guys hear me now?
Move slowly.
This is Jack.
Okay.
There you go. All right, Jack, did
Sorry,
you
guys.
tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. State your name for the record, spell your last name.
My name's Jack Raker, R-A-K-E-R.
And we've accepted your credentials previously as a, come on, Jack.
Yeah,
fill in the
as an
blank.
architect.
There you go. Mr. Chairman, we accept his credentials?
Yeah.
All right. Fire away, Tom.
All right, so, Mr. Raker, not to stand on ceremony, could you just give the board an overview of the amendments that were made to the architectural plans with respect to, or as a result of the discussion at our last meeting on the subject of the size of the affordable housing units and bedroom, or bathroom types, sorry.
Sure. Last time we heard the board's concern about the size of the low and moderate units, so we decided to go back and take a look and see if we could get them to the levels that the board was expecting. So first, I'd like to review some of the unit mix changes that happened. Same number of units as previously stated. There were 40. However, we did change the mix in shuffling around to try to get some more square footage into these low and moderates. Previously, we had 5 studios, 12 one-bedroom market rate apartments, 1 one-bedroom affordable, 19 two-bedroom markets, 2 two-bedroom affordables, and 1 three-bedroom affordable. currently the studios and one-bedroom mix has changed, which is 3 studios currently proposed, 14 one-bedroom market rate units, 1 one-bedroom affordable, 19 two-bedroom markets, that's the same as before, 2 two-bedroom affordables, that's the same, and 1 three-bedroom affordable, which is the same as before. And then and I'll go over the changes shortly, but I'm just going to hit on some of the square footage differences that we were able to achieve. Previously, our one-bedroom affordable unit was about 666 square feet. We were able to raise that up to 721 square feet. Our two-bedroom affordable unit was 987 square feet. We were able to raise that up to 1,100 square feet. And then our three-bedroom affordable previously was 1058 square feet. We were able to raise that up to 1,240 square feet. Both the two-bedroom and three-bedroom affordable units will have 2 baths. I'm going to take you through the plan and show you what we did, what kind of juggling we did to accommodate these square footages.
Jack, I've given you the ability to annotate.
Great. Can you see my cursor as well? I won't need to draw if you can see my cursor. No?
I don't see your cursor, no.
Okay, so then I know I'll have to draw. So the first major change that you're going to see, and you won't really notice too much of a difference here, this stair that's located here, you'll see we've added this dashed line behind it. And what we've done is we've adjusted the location of that stair above the podium. We've taken that stair and it did shuffle a little bit. There's not much of a change here on the ground floor, but we did add this dashed line, and that's the location of the stair at the second level. Could you go to the next place, please, Janet? Next page, please, Janice.
Okay. Is that too far? Did I skip one?
Yeah, I believe you did.
All right, is that the one you want?
That's the one, thank you. So you'll notice, the first thing you'll notice at this level is that the stair is no longer in the location it was at the level below. At the level below, it is at the street edge to allow for parking and drive aisle access. But we're walking the stair back at the upper levels. That allows us to capture this square footage here. Doesn't seem like much, but it actually is a good amount of square footage that we've captured, from the two-bedroom here and from behind the stair. We eliminated the little bit of hallway that ran down to the stairwell, and we were able to capture that back into the unit. That combined with shuffling these demising walls, we were able to get the one-bedroom low and moderate unit, affordable unit, up in square footage, as well as the three-bedroom affordable unit up in square footage. So those changes really help. That one simple shift in the stair, it seems simple, but it's actually going to take some structural gymnastics. But I think it really will benefit the plan. It allows a lot more of the residential to front the street, which is great. Next sheet, please, Janice.
Okay. Is that it?
No, that was the same. Yep, that's the one right there.
Okay.
So you'll notice here we keep the stair in its location. At this level, the third level, we've added into the two-bedroom where it was below the three-bedroom. We've captured some space back for tenant storage. We think that's a great amenity. And the two-bedroom affordable now becomes 1,100 square feet on the levels above. All of these demising walls that I discussed earlier stack up through the building. We utilize them for structure, so they do need to stack. But again, we've been able to increase that square footage simply by shifting that stairwell back and getting more exposure to the exterior wall. Next slide, please.
Okay.
Oh,
That's the one you wanted?
one, Janice.
I
Should be
did.
A06.
There we go. Okay.
Great, thank you. Again, this plan is identical to the plan below it. We have the 1,100 square foot affordable unit with 2 bathrooms and the 1-bedroom affordable unit now at 721 square feet. And the last slide, which is sheet A07.
Mm.
So again, this slide just shows that there's been a slight shift in the location of the stairwell. It's no longer out at the building edge, but it did shift back off of that building edge. Just the only change at this roof level plan. It's substantially the same as it was previously. Janice, could you take me back to the ground floor? I want to address some of the comments in Barton Ross's letter.
Is that the one you wanted?
Yes, thank you so much. There were a couple of comments in Mr. Ross's letter. We did have a brief conversation and discuss with him the comments that we would be picking up. One was the addition of a door to access from the retail into the trash area. We believe that's a good idea, and we will be adding that door. I believe we'll handle that in resolution compliance. And then additionally, we will be increasing and flipping the swing to the access doors along here. So we will agree to do that. We think those are good ideas. There was one mention in his letter about adding a door from the garage into the trash area. We explained to him that, you know, all the tenants have access at the floors above, and they do not need access at the garage level. That maintenance will access from the exterior of the building, and he was fine with not adding a door from the garage. Additionally, there was another comment that discussed the space between our building and the adjacent buildings. I'm going to highlight that for you here. We have a space all along the perimeter rears of our building. It's about 2 feet in width. And that area is utilized so that we can get back and maintain the exterior wall of our garage and clean out any debris that may be there. We're not building directly against the adjacent properties. We do not want to create that is a very difficult detail and structural detail when you build against the zero lot line. And we can avoid all that gymnastics, simplify it by just pulling it off 2 feet and then allowing maintenance to go in there and clean and maintain those portions of the property. We'll have gates at either end so that the public won't be able to access those points. With that said, I believe that concludes my testimony. Tom, I don't know if you have any other items you want me to broach?
No, I think that's good. And obviously, to the extent the board has questions.
Sure.
Board members, any questions?
Yep, I've got a question. A07.
Janice, can you hear me?
Yes, that's Carol. I can hear you.
Okay, I do not have a question. I just wanted to be sure you could hear me. Thank you.
I couldn't make Carol a panelist, so she's attending. She's unmuted, an unmuted attendee.
I do have one. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, can you go to A04?
Oh, you want me to go to A04? Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I see that you have added some terraces, 4 different spots. My concern is what is going to be in the blank space where there is no terrace, and why don't you extend the terraces all the way instead of having those blank squares?
Well, there is some space because the terraces may not be owned by the same unit. We wouldn't want to connect terraces that would be owned by or utilized by two different units. So we'd likely put some landscaping in between so that it'll create some sense of privacy and maybe a small screen wall so that this two-bedroom, I'll use for instance this two-bedroom on the corner, may utilize this corner terrace, whereas the two-bedroom toward the inside may utilize this smaller terrace. So in between, we want to create a little bit of a private buffer between those two areas so that, you know, you're not sitting right next to your neighbor as you're out on that terrace.
Separate the terraces from each other. Wall or?
Oh, I'm sorry. I only caught just a little bit of that question. Could you repeat that, please?
What will separate those two terraces by the corner unit from each other? Is there a wall?
There'll likely be some small landscaping in here, some landscape wall, as well as small fence. We don't want them to visually be able to see each other.
I understand that, and just, you know, right now there's nothing there, and I don't know what you plan to have there. We always like to see the different details of a plan, and right now we don't have those details for those terraces that you included. In addition, the one all the way in the corner, it seems to me it doesn't abut anybody's property, any unit, so why don't you extend that one all the way down? Just for more terrace space for the corner unit.
Are we talking about the one-bedroom?
Oh, the two-bedroom corner. All the way to, looking at it to my right.
This one? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, right,
that one?
right there. Why don't you include that as part of the terrace that go with that two-bedroom unit?
I mean, we could consider something like that. Right now, you know, we think that the terrace size is very generous, but you know, we could consider expanding it a little bit. We did want to give it a little bit of a buffer, so we leave a little bit of area for some planting at the edge. But you know, we could consider. We think that's where the living space is going to be, and that's where we'll want that terrace to access.
What you're saying doesn't make sense to me. That's a corner unit. You have a corner. You could have a terrace that runs all the way around. Why would you not do that?
Well, we think that it's nice to have some landscaping to look onto. I mean,
well, it's
you
nice
know,
for the renter to put their own landscaping in there if they have container pots or something.
I think it's better for the building to manage the landscaping. We can guarantee that it'll be maintained at that point. You know, when you let tenants sometimes manage their own planting, you have potential to have some plants that die and then are sitting up there as their dead plants. And we prefer to have that managed by us.
How does the management get in? They have to go through people's apartments to get at that buffer?
Yeah, and it's not uncommon. There are inspections that are done typically in an apartment, and they are scheduled with the tenant.
Whatever.
Well,
I just
to
about not increasing the whole terrace and making it part of whatever unit you want to, but that's just my opinion.
and to Carmen's point, I think, you know, that your plan needs to reflect what's going to go in those blank spaces, as well as the blank spaces up by the one bedroom in the rear.
Yeah, that's a really weird terrace. Why don't you extend that the whole way?
You know, I think that, you know, having a terrace that is next to some landscaping is nice if you don't need all of that space. And there is plenty of area. We have plenty of area out here for common space terrace for people to gather. This is just simply for the private individual unit.
Right, well, I might prefer to gather in my own private space than with everybody else, but I understand what you agree with.
I agree, and you know, we'd like to create a buffer between the public and private space. So we have this area. You know, could we push this terrace out? Potentially, we could push that a little bit further. I think, you know, we've hit the market size from the terrace standpoint, and it is just these units that get those terraces, just these units at this level.
just seems like a waste of potentially good space for those apartments to have.
Keith, did you have a question?
I did. I had a question on A07.
Okay.
With the shift to the stair bulkhead, it looks like some of the solar panels will now be outside of that 10-foot or within the 10-foot boundary. Does that cause the need for an exception or a variance?
When you say which solar panels are now outside of that
So if we
boundary?
look towards kind of plan south and east, that stair bulkhead that was moved plan north, when I look at it, it looks like the solar panels that were on top of that bulkhead, it looks like someone's flagging it right about there. Yep. They're now within that setback buffer area.
And I just want you to tell me exactly which direction, which setback buffer area are you referring to? Because the solar panels that we're showing, I'm just trying to zoom in a little bit here.
Perhaps Janice will zoom in a little bit.
Okay.
But when I look at the plans on my larger screen here, and let me say for the record, I'm supporting the additional solar. I don't want to, have any problems down the road if this should be an exception or whatnot.
Janice, can you give Keith the ability to draw on the plan?
I can.
Thank you.
I'd love to.
I think I found what you're referring to. And I think it's the area right in here. Is that the area of concern?
So I think I just tried to draw something on there.
I see it.
In blue.
Although you may have picked up another one that I didn't notice in red, but the one I was thinking of is in blue, I believe.
Well, I was going to point out that this is not solar panels, and the solar panels, I see what you're saying, it does extend over, but we would hold them back to this area and out of that
If it's not
setback
solar
area.
panel, if it's not solar panel, what is it?
That's the stair. This is the stair here.
And what about the area where you drew on the other?
Neither of these are solar panels. This is probably a leftover hatch from this area. So we'll have to clean that up in our resolution compliance. The solar panel area will not extend beyond that setback line.
I'm frankly okay if it does. I wanted to point that out because when things shift, there's unintended consequences sometimes, and I don't want that to get missed.
Understood. But we have enough area to make the solar panels comply without needing a variance.
That's all I have, John.
Other questions from the board? Not hearing anything, not seeing anything, Janice? You?
I'm going to go to the public.
I have one question.
Okay.
Can you tell me how many square feet the residential space is in total?
When you say the residential space, do you mean all square footage that is considered residential?
Yes, I'm trying to get a feel for how much residential space there is compared to how much retail space. We know what the retail
I would
space
have to.
is there.
I would have to do that calculation for you to total up all residential square footage and get back to you on the comparison.
Yeah, and Carmen, are you including community space, the common areas, as well as the apartment square footage?
Yes, everything. Mhm.
Okay, so,
Okay, well, you can get back to us with that calculation.
Absolutely.
all right, I'm going
On the
to,
first one, please?
I'm going to open it up. You want me to open up to the public?
Yes.
All right,
Questions of the public?
I've unmuted the public, so all of the public. So if anybody who wants to speak, please say your name. I don't hear anybody.
Nor do I. All right, seems like silence, so we'll move on.
All right, I'm going to mute the public except for Carol. Carol, let me unmute you.
All right, Counselor? Next witness?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, that concludes our direct presentation of witnesses. There's public comment, and I have a closing statement at some point before the board's break. We've reached the end.
I have a little bit of housekeeping that I neglected to do at the beginning of this application. I just want to, I marked the 4 additional items, exhibits. So for the record, A79 are the revised plans presented by Minnewaska with a revision date of September 5th, 2020. 880 is the letter from Minnewaska stamped September 8th, 2020. 881 is the planning report dated September 8th, 2020, and A82 is the report from Barton Ross dated September 9th, 2020.
And before we move on to the public, or rather the public comment on this, I'd like to ask if Mr. Genosa would had any further comments to add on the testimony that's been given regarding the revision and his comments.
Jerry, I unmuted you.
Well, no, it's my understanding that Brian testified at the last hearing that they would honor Mr. Penske's testimony from the spring meeting regarding the parking and the restrictions on the retail space and the parking. So we're as we were in the spring, we're good with that condition. So as testified by Mr. Stolar at the last hearing, we're comfortable with that condition.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
One more question about parking. Just, can you please refresh my memory? Is the valet service going to be parking the cars that come in for use of the retail space?
It's my understanding that it's going to be a valet operation at all times, yes.
Is that it, Carmen? Carmel?
Yes.
Sorry. That's it?
Yes.
All right. Public comment. If any members of the public that wish to speak on the application as a whole, now's the time to do it.
Okay, let me, I've unmuted the public.
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Yes. Hi.
Who is this?
This is Tom Mesh, 666 Bloomfield Avenue, Montclair.
What was your name again?
Tom Mesh from Bloomfield Avenue, Montclair.
All right, Tom, raise your right hand, Tom, even though I can't see you. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Spell your last name.
Nesce.
Terrific. Please proceed.
Okay. A while back, I think it's about 2 months ago, I asked a question to the expert witness in regards to the utilities, which he had no idea that the fiber optics cable phone lines went through the middle of the Ferrara property, which serves 4 additional properties. And he said all the utilities came off of Orange Road, which wasn't correct. So I'm just concerned about these utilities because I have tenants that their kids are doing online schooling. And with the telephone poles there, did they do any research or did they have any ideas of how they're going to provide this service without getting it cut off? You know, I'm just concerned about that. And these telephone poles with these fiber optics cable phone lines serve 4 different properties. And I would like that to be part of the requirement if this project gets approved, that they're going to take care of this. You know, that they have a solution for this problem. And that's it.
Okay. Mr. Troutman, I don't know whether or not you're able to speak on this issue this evening. Do you have anything to offer?
My recollection, Mr. Chairman, is that Kevin Webb from Langen Engineering had previously testified in response to this question that the utilities were going to be rerouted, I believe, underground, but nonetheless, it's going to be addressed. I proposed the testimony before. Unfortunately, I don't know that I can recall more specifics off the top of my head beyond that.
Okay. All right. Is there any other comment from the public on the application as a whole?
I have a comment from one resident who her microphone's not working. Teresa Verhallen, I think you have she submitted a written comment. Let me see what I have here. She said, I live right around the corner from this development. I see your chat. You're concerned about the development, and she's concerned about the utilities as well. So essentially, I think, Teresa, I'm reading those are your comments. Since your microphone's not working, do you have anything else? If you type it, I can at least try. You don't want to lose what you have. Okay. It's really difficult with the online chat. If your microphone doesn't work, then there's really not an ability for the board to question. Is there anybody else in the public who has a comment?
It appears Scott Kennedy's trying to raise his hand, but he also appears to be unmuted, but we can't hear anything if he's trying to say anything.
Right, and again, I'm trying to go to the chat. You have the ability to chat. I don't see, Scott, I don't see anything in your chat box. I know Martin Schwartz also indicated that he's been trying to make a comment, but his microphone's not working as well.
Are the individuals whose microphone aren't working, can they call in by telephone?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
The call number is on the minutes. Can you post that back up again, Janice?
Yep, I can. Let me get the minutes. So for those of you who want to call, the number is 1-408-418-9388, and the meeting code is 129-405-5096.
That's the fourth bullet point of what's showing on the screen.
Teresa? Scott?
Janice, it appears that a couple of the calling users are muted.
The call-in? I unmuted everybody, but let me try it again.
It might be that now that they called in,
Okay.
after everything was unmuted. Because it looks like
Okay, I see. I will. Oh. I just unmuted everybody again.
Janice,
Hi.
can you hear me now?
Can you hear me? Yep.
Janice?
Yeah, who's that? Scott?
Scott Kennedy, yes.
All right, Scott. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth? Scott, this is Dennis Galvin. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely.
All right, Scott, fire away. Tell us what you want to tell us.
All right, briefly, I want to thank Brian for bringing this project to Montclair and thank the committee for working hard at it. I own a business and property downtown, and I'm eagerly looking forward to my new neighbor commercial tenants and all the residential tenants that are going to join the fabric of Montclair. As far as the utilities go, I'm wrestling with that now on my office with the parking deck at Glenridge Avenue. So it's not the builder's responsibility, but Verizon and the other guys. They'll move the utilities around to make them work. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Teresa, you ready?
Yes, I am.
All right, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm testimony about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Spell your last name.
Verhaalen.
Okay. Tell us what you'd like to tell us about.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for being patient with me. I'm very familiar with Zoom. I'm not too familiar with Cisco, so I wasn't able to share my video or share my audio, and I didn't know why that didn't happen, but thank you for that. But yes, I'm just mainly concerned. I mean, I'm excited about the development too, because, this is around the corner from me, but I am just concerned about like where the placement of the poles are and when this development goes in. First of all, the removal of the gas tank underground, if that's going to affect the environment at all around me, or just how that's going to get done, and also the utility poles, because my electrical wires are on there, and I also get my internet through there. That's my main concern.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Teresa.
Hello, this
Are
is
there-
William Scott. Hello?
Who's this?
Yes, Mr. Scott.
Identify yourself.
Yes, this is
Mr.
William
Scott? Terrific. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, and spell your last name.
Scott, S-C-O-T-T.
All right, Mr. Scott, please proceed.
Okay. Again, this is William Scott, co-chair of the Montclair Housing Commission and also the chair of the NAACP Housing Committee. I am pleased to hear the changes to the affordable units that will make them substantially the same as the market rate units, in addition to the square footage and obviously the bathrooms that are being added. I think I did have a question last time about the parking need for the affordable units. Will they be included, or are they going to be considered an amenity?
Tom, could you address that?
Oh, excuse me, before you do, and also I want to thank Mr. Stoll for the contribution of $150,000 to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to help build an additional affordable unit somewhere within the township. Thank you. Please address the parking question.
Sure. As to the parking question, actually, so we'll comply with the Montclair ordinance, and I don't know off the top of my head exactly what the requirements are, but whatever the requirement is for affordable units with amenities such as parking, we'll abide by.
Okay. Well, I think I mentioned the last time the landlord is controlling the parking amenities and all the other amenities, so that would be the landlord or property owner's call to include that parking in the affordable units.
I think what Mr. Scott's asking is whether or not you'll do special parking, make the parking for free for the affordable units, or for subsidize the parking. Is that what you're asking?
Yes. You have additional parking because you have fewer units at this point, so you have an abundance of parking. So could that parking for the affordable units be included?
In the rent?
Yes.
So again, I believe there is an additional charge associated with parking, and we'll abide by, to the extent that the subsidized proportionally in conjunction with the affordable rent. That's what the ordinance requires. That's what we'll do. We didn't have a special accommodation in mind.
Well, it didn't answer the question because I'm trying to get a commitment at this point in time. I understand with the additional...
Mr. Scott, it sounds like the applicant is telling you that if the affordable housing ordinance requires that it be included, that it will be included. If it doesn't require that, then they had not contemplated giving one, including it at this time. That was his answer. So, so I take it that your plea is that whether it's included or not, you feel that he should include it. And when I say he, I mean the developer.
Yes, and the reason why I'm pointing it out is some of the newer units that are coming online in the township, specifically the Vestry and also the Wesley, the additional parking, the parking requirement is anywhere from $150 to $200 a month. That's a substantial amount of money to go along with an affordable unit, in addition to what you're paying, which is something that we had not had addressed in the past.
All right. Well, we understand the issue, Mr. Scott.
And Mr. Troutner, if I'm understanding you correctly, the applicant's not prepared to make a commitment at this time?
Yeah, exactly, Your Honor. We'll abide by whatever the ordinance is. If the ordinance requires that the parking be included in the affordable rent, then so be it. Or if it's a reduced cost for the parking, whatever it is, we'll abide by it. Apropos ordinance and affordable housing regulations.
Okay. Janet, I believe we're going to have to work on this.
I hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are there other comments from the public? Janice, you see anything?
I don't see anything, no.
Okay. All right, well, I guess then we can close the public comment section of this proceeding. And Mr. Troutner, you said you had some closing comments.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Just to sum up, and it's been a journey in terms of number of hearings. So I thought it'd be appropriate to go over a little bit of where we are and what we're asking you to deliberate on. So again, this is an application for preliminary and final site plan approval for a permitted mixed-use inclusionary development consisting of 40 residential dwelling units, along with approximately 2,300 square feet of retail space and 73 on-site parking spaces, with a significant public plaza proposed to be constructed pursuant to the Montclair Center Gateway Phase 1 redevelopment plan, and there are some deviations from that plan in conjunction with this application. As the Planning Board is aware, the site is currently home to a vacant auto body repair shop, gas station, and is surrounded by the MC Hotel, Valley and Bloom, and the Orange Road deck. Those deviations I mentioned a moment ago, to recap, we have deviations associated with allowing on-site parking of 73 spaces with mechanical stackers, where 86 spaces would technically be required by the redevelopment plan. We have a deviation to allow the construction of a pedestrian accessible plaza along with a tree planting strip to be landscaped with grass or other lower height growing landscaping. And then finally, there's a deviation to allow sustainability compliance to be measured by green globes, which is, as previously testified to, a nationally recognized certification process rather than by LEED. Throughout the course of the hearings, the applicant, as you may recall, presented uncontroverted engineering, architectural, traffic engineering, and parking management and planning testimony. And I don't want to belabor the point, but as I mentioned a moment ago, the board's heard extensive testimony on this application. And through that process, the suggestions, the examination, the compromises, the cooperation, and frankly, the thoughtful hard work of the chairman, the members of the planning board, and of course, the planning board professionals, we think we've reached a great project. The last piece of the puzzle that is this redevelopment area, transitioning between the hotel and the Orange Road deck, and enhancing the visual aesthetic by adding a nice public plaza feature on Orange Road while obscuring the view of the real Valley and Blue buildings. My clients worked very hard to try and accommodate the variety of suggestions, and I know is proud of this project as it stands before this board for consideration. So one question is, how will this benefit the residents of Montclair? As testified by the applicant's experts, the project is going to replace a vacant old auto body repair shop gas station with a modern, aesthetically pleasing architectural design that will provide inclusionary housing, on-site parking, and ground floor support retail to the residents of the building and to nearby residents via the sizable pedestrian plaza. You've heard testimony about how the site design, driveways, and circulations will operate as compared to the gas station, an auto body facility that's currently occupying space, and we believe the proposed project, with the improvements suggested by this board and its professionals, will, among other things, enhance how vehicles enter and exit the site currently. And it's to say nothing of the benefit of the public plaza and having a mixed-use building to enhance the feeling of walkability, connecting this area of Orange Road and the hotel to the retail uses on Bloomfield Avenue. So specifically with respect to Orange Road, the project will permit substantial improvements to be made to the Orange Road frontage in terms of site access and traffic flow, which in turn improves the safety of the location. This is the testimony that's been provided by our experts. Towards this end, you'll recall 2 commercial curb cuts are going to be eliminated and replaced with a single driveway to access the new mixed-use building. You've also heard testimony that the design will create good sight lines and, again, improve the safety aspects of the location. Per the testimony, this project will allow the pedestrian environment in this location to be enhanced by implementing safety measures that will make walking more comfortable, such as through replacing the sidewalk with a generous pedestrian walkway incorporated into the public plaza, and the installation of a crosswalk constructed from a contrasting material at the location of the driveway. In terms of parking, the project presents an ideal opportunity for this board to employ the ULI shared parking analysis, which is incorporated and recommended throughout the Montclair Center Gateway redevelopment plan, subject to the use limitations and recommendation by Mr. Giosa, the board's parking consultant, which you heard a few moments ago. As Mr. Pankey, our traffic expert, testified, the principal shared parking recognizes that different uses have different synergies and require parking at different times. It would make no sense to require that all the uses be parked implementing individual use requirements because then the parking needs would be overestimated. As testified to, all the peak hour parking demands for the residential and retail use can be accommodated on-site through the use of mechanical stackers in the garage and the proposed parking management plan, which in turn creates additional benefits. Cars won't be visible to the public, which improves the aesthetic for the surrounding area's residents, and functionally it obviates the need for drivers to search for parking elsewhere. The proposed parking management plan utilizes technology as well as valet parking to allow safe and efficient storage and retrieval of cars. In terms of the anticipated occupancy, although the applicant has demonstrated that the garage will support the peak hour parking demand, it's anticipated that the garage will be rarely full. Kevin Webb from Langen Engineering and Kristen Sokich from ProPark America testified that conservatively with valet, an additional 6 cars or a total of 79 cars can be parked in that garage. Mr. Sokich testified that based on his data, as well as his knowledge and experience as an expert, and based on the original proposal of 46 units, which was subsequently again reduced to 40 units, thereby further reducing the parking demand, he believes that there's adequate parking during the week. Mr. Sokich also explained that even though the weekends see different activity because people are home or they sleep late, that there's still plenty of parking anticipated to be available. And Mr. Giosa, the board's expert, in turn concurs that with a certain requirement mentioned a moment ago, that there's adequate on-site parking proposed even on Saturday nights when residents might be home, and during which time Mr. Giosa suggested there would be need for approximately 43 spaces for residents and approximately 27 spaces for retail, which would leave a surplus of parking. Now, the requirement, and just to reiterate, is if a restaurant is in operation, which we've testified is contemplated, a food hall concept, the applicant agrees, per Mr. Giosa's requirement, to limit any potential restaurant use to 30 seats, and that the restaurant use may not include fast food restaurants nor have a liquor license or table service. So based on the foregoing, even at 46 units, our professional planner, Sean Moronsky from Langen Engineering, provided uncontroverted professional planning testimony that the planning justifications were made to substantiate the requested deviations for parking and as otherwise identified. And again, now we only have 40 units instead of 46, so that decreases the intensity of the parking deviations requested by an additional 15% approximately, and those planning justifications thereby remain very much in support of what we hope is the board granting the requested deviations to approve this application. The site is practically surrounded by development that this board has approved pursuant to the redevelopment plan, which has undeniably, I think, benefited not only the residents of Montclair, but visitors to Montclair. And we think approving this project will allow the vacant and old parcel with the gas station to be transformed into a mixed-use multifamily inclusionary development that employs current sustainability standards and allows for peak hour parking demands to be provided on-site inside of a garage. And you've heard extensive testimony on the residential elements of the building, which we've now been able that we hadn't even thought about previously in terms of responding to things like COVID and providing a nice place for people in Montclair to live, whether it's downsizing and renting an apartment to stay in town, or it's offering a quality rental residence in a more boutique building. And of course, again, we're providing affordable housing units and addressing solar and green roof goals. In short, we think this is a great building. It's the right piece of the puzzle to complete the redevelopment plan, and while balancing a variety of concerns to create the best project possible. We think the benefits of approving this application are substantial, For that reason, we respectfully request that the board grant the application.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Troutman. All right, well, that closes the proceedings with respect to the hearing on the application. Members of the board, what are your feelings with regard to the application?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just want to note that there was a chat message from Martin suggesting that the building should have been reduced in density to comply with the parking requirements.
Okay.
All right?
So noted.
Okay.
So noted.
Thank you.
So, members of the board, comments. One thing I think that we needed to review also along the same lines as what Mr. Troutner just mentioned, because this plan has gone through a number of evolutions. We've had changes, we've had certain conditions we've discussed, and do we, between our attorney and our secretary, Janice, do we have a list of what's currently applicable as to what the conditions that...
Mr. Chairman, I have 11.
You have 11. Could you go through those, please?
Sure. I know I'm going to need help. I know they got to get fixed. The applicant is not permitted to lease space to commercial uses with a higher parking demand than that which was submitted to the board. It could be fixed, but there was a solar power credit. And I'll go back through the notes to flush that out. There were a number of years where they said that they would make that contribution, but I don't have the exact number of years.
All right, but we can determine that from the minutes. Go ahead.
Is that, Mr. Galvin, is that still valid now that they changed to how they did the calculation to match what the requirements of the redevelopment plan were?
I don't know. That's why I'm raising it. It was a very big concern early in this case.
I probably was one of the people that had that concern.
And I don't think they had enough solar panels on the roof, and that's why they had to make the contribution.
Yeah,
something?
For what it's worth, that was discussed at one point in time where we were short on solar. I think that may have gone away when resolving by the solar being now compliant with the plan.
So can you provide that between now and memorialization?
Yeah, consistent with the testimony, which was subsequent, I think, to the time where the credit was discussed. We met the requirements of the amount of solar that needs to be on the roof.
Okay.
All right. Well, we just want to review that just to make sure that everybody's on the same page with it.
Okay. All right. 3, the building owner is not to establish a relationship with the adjacent parking garage to provide parking for its users. 4, the applicant is to make a request to the governing body that they amend the sign ordinance along Orange Road for a distance of blank feet from Bloomfield Avenue. 5, the applicant must provide wiring to support an electric car charging station. 6, the restaurant in the building shall not have more than 30 seats. 7, the pedestrian walkway will be concrete with a palette color that will be in a tone that matches the streetscape. 8, the revisions committee is to review the proposed pedestrian walkway and the front redesign along Bloomfield Avenue facade. The green roof is to be maintained to the life of the building. A copy of the green roof plan is to be attached to this resolution and shall include a list of all planning materials. 10, the resolution of this approval is to be recorded. 11, the applicant agreed to provide 4 on-site affordable housing units and will make a contribution of $150,000 to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for the creation of an off-site affordable housing unit to be determined as to location by the township. That's what I had.
I think they said too that they were going to, those buffer bar that's going to be terrace on 804.
They have to clarify the plan with respect to what's going, the size of the terraces, if they're going to alter them, and what's going to go into the blank spaces that are somewhere between them there.
I understand the word you said, John.
Someone was moving papers. Try again, John.
The applicant has to change, amend the plan to clarify the sizes of the terraces if they're going to change, and to also indicate what's going to go into those blank spaces adjacent to the terraces if they remain.
Between now and memorialization?
Yeah, I mean, we need the plans. We need the plans to reflect what we're approving.
Tom, did you hear that?
So we can update the plans. I guess that I'm happy to bring them back before memorialization, but we're obviously looking for a vote, so I just want to think.
No, we're going to give you a vote.
Yeah.
We're going to memorialize it in 30 days. We'll get that plan fixed. I do it all the time, actually. It's normally not a problem. Tell me.
Actually, I think we can give them longer than that, since they do have to come before the revisions committee to review some other items.
Okay.
Which will also require changes to the plan.
So prior to what? Prior to the issuance of a building permit?
Yeah.
Okay. The plan is to be amended to show the actual terraces between now and the time of the issuance of to the board.
No, to the revisions committee. If it's,
Okay.
I think it's a revisions committee issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
The revisions committee.
Got it.
I had asked a question about how much there is the whole project and divided between the residential and the retail space.
Right. Do we have that calculation now?
So, and from a percentage standpoint, I'm told that it's about 95% in the residential side, multifamily side.
Carmen, is that good? Carmel, is that good enough for you, or do you want the specific number? Square footage. Is that good enough for you, or did you want the square footage?
Yes, fine.
Okay. All right, well, we've been hearing this application over a number of evenings. It has evolved significantly since it was first presented to us. I think that the applicant has made significant efforts to react to the comments that the board has made with respect to the way that the plan, excuse me, has been laid out and has been cooperative in implementing suggestions and considerations for the community as a whole, and with respect to this site in particular. I believe that the application as it currently stands is a good, solid project, and it should be an asset to the area. And with the provisions that we've made, provisos for adjusting certain issues and the conditions that we placed on them, I would make a motion that we approve the application this evening. We can't hear you, Janet.
Is there a second to the motion?
I will second.
That's Robin, right?
Yes.
Okay. This is what the condition stated. John, you want me to do a roll call?
No, we're going to have discussion.
Well, that's what we were trying to do before, and nobody was saying anything. So if you want to say something, you know, don't hesitate. Jump right in there.
I disagree then. The applicant has said that this was the best possible project. I believe that is not the case. I think anybody who would look at this site, a developer or just a layperson, would look at this site and say this is the perfect site where we have this alleyway that could have taken care of all the driveways, the transformer room, but instead that was put in the public realm in the front of the building. The front of the building could have accommodated a lovely wide plaza that would benefit the public. This site, the way it's laid out, does not benefit the public. And it actually hurts the public. All the traffic that will be driving to get to the hotel, get to park in this parking lot underneath the building, and the Orange Road is going to be a traffic alley where this perfect site, you could have had that traffic flow going up Central Verde, but they chose not to do that. They gave reasons, which I'm doubtful that, I just am doubtful about the reasons that they say. There's many things that are built in much more difficult terrain than this project would be built on. They could have put the garage entrance on Central Verde, they could have put their transformer entrance on Central Verde, and they could have had a lovely wide public area. We look at this building, and it's an okay building, but it doesn't enhance the area the way it could have. It's not the best possible project. We're relying once again on a third-party valet parking system, which I really find objectionable. Granted, they may be an excellent company, but I don't think that we should be hanging our hat on a successful project by using a third-party valet parking system. And it's an area of lots of traffic. If you think about, as we discussed, the hotel having a big event there, being full, we hope it eventually will have that kind of business. And if it does, when I went to the hotel, there were cars lined all along Orange Road trying to get into the hotel. Then now we're going to add to that an entrance to their garage. How are people going to manage that when there's a lot of traffic on Orange Road? To me, it's going to be a mess. And we're hanging our hat on, once again, a valet service that's generally run by kids who, who are high turnover, in a hurry, not experienced drivers. It's a problem. I appreciate all the changes that they did make. I'm happy to see the affordable housing changes. Let me see. But I also believe, and I know we've discussed this before, that the intent of this redevelopment plan was to have 18 units there that would kind of fit in with the residential component that exists in the area already. Across the street from Ferraris, there's a couple, 8 or 10 lovely houses. If we had had townhouses or something built opposite them, I think that would be a better plan, a better solution, and more in keeping with the intent of the master plan, which really looks to keep the areas enhanced and not building massive projects once again. So I disagree that this is the best possible project. I appreciate what they've done with it. It is improved, but it certainly is flawed from the beginning in the way that they set out the building.
I've got a proposed change to one of the conditions, Chair Wen.
Yes.
I think the condition that Mr. Galvin had said about the restaurant, the building would not have more than 30 seats. I'd like to expand that to what I think Mr. Giosa had stated, at least what we had in our minutes from the August 10th meeting, and that is that Mr. Penke testified that they would limit the use of the retail space to no fast food, no bar or tavern use, no alcohol served on site, no restaurant with table services, and no more than 30 seats in an eating establishment.
Yeah, I think we have to go back to the record to pin down the rest of the conditions, the exact language with respect to the charging stations and the other things that we're mentioning. Then, you know, understandably, this, because of the way that this has played out over such a long period of time, you know, I can understand that Dennis doesn't have exact notes as to what the final is. And this is going to have to be worked out between Mr. Galvin and the applicant's attorney.
Yeah, I'll get that. I'll get it done, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else have anything to offer to the discussion?
I think you might want to check out Mr. Schwartz's comment. He couldn't get his mic working, but he's written something in the chat room.
Not sure why Mr. Schwartz didn't dial in like the rest.
I don't see.
He said he was having trouble. I can read it if you want.
Okay.
Please.
All right.
Go ahead.
I've tried to connect Mike again, not working. This is my comment. There is just not a public good to giving any parking variance for this application. Indeed, once we get back to normal, given the excessive hotel traffic, the school traffic from two facilities, less is actually more here. Giving a parking variance for any kind in this location is just bad precedent for all the builders. Going forward, when the developer has the option of simply giving less density to meet the code. I thought I did a good job of digesting it, but he didn't think so. That's all. That's it.
All right. Thank you. Does anybody else have anything else to add?
This is Steve. I think that the building has come a very long way since we first saw it. And I like the change in the density and the size of the apartments increasing to something desirable. The parking will always be a problem in Montclair. I don't care how much parking we put in. That would only affect on how the retail portion of the building reacts if they don't have enough parking. And that's up to the developer. Otherwise, I think that it's going to end up being kind of a nice building, and it will also finish up this whole development area nicely.
Can I make a comment, please?
Please do.
Dennis, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you, Carol.
Okay. I just wanted to go back and reiterate some of what my concerns were before, and that is that while I am very appreciative of the fact that the developer has improved the affordable units, I'm very appreciative for the fact that there will be the additional donation for affordable housing. But I still have the same concern that I have raised each time the matter has come up, and that is that the reason why the development was done was to help the retail development in Montclair, and that's why there was the option to increase the development in size more than double. It's more than double the 18 that would have been if it had been no retail. Therefore, I am still disappointed that there is only a very tiny bit of dedication to retail. I think the statistic came out after calculation to be about 5%. That doesn't seem to be the amount that would be expected, given that the whole project in size and that location was based on the fact that retail would be present. So while I am happy for what has been done with the portable units, I'm still not happy with the lack of dedication to retail, and even that which will be there is going to be constrained. So that's a concern. Thank you.
This is Robin, if I could say something.
Yes, Robin.
Okay. I would ask that the developer be very sensitive to the area during construction, to the neighbors, to the school, 2 schools there, the Hillside School and the pre-K center. That street has been through a lot over the last 2 or 3 years with the construction of the hotel. So I do ask that the developer and the construction company be very mindful of these people as their work.
Any other comments? Anybody else?
Going once, going twice.
Well, we have a motion on the table that's been seconded. Dennis, official vote?
You ready for the roll?
Yep.
Okay. Vice Chair Brodock?
Yes.
We have Mayor Spiller, who I know was new to this.
Thank you very much, Janice, for that. I want to first, looking back at all the previous information, looking back at all the details which are provided, listening to what I have seen since coming on, I want to thank the planning board and the developer for continuing to work on this. While looking back and reviewing most of it, at this point, I think I still will abstain from the vote. Thank you.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Councilor Schlager?
Yes.
Ms. Willis?
Abstain.
Mr. Rooney?
She's conflicted. She couldn't decide.
Let's see, Steve Rooney?
Can't hear you.
Mr. Rooney?
He's on mute.
I'm trying to unmute him. All right, Steve, I'll come back to you while you try and, Ms. Lockman?
No.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
You're all right. Yeah, further.
All right, Mr. Rooney, are you back on?
I think he dropped off.
He's there. He's there.
He was there a minute ago.
I know. I was watching to see that he got unmuted, and
Yeah, now
I don't see him anymore.
Oh, dear.
Can he raise his hand or something? Or yes, to a vocal.
Can you follow?
I can. I have his number.
That's what she said. What was that? I did it. Yes, good.
All right, what's happening here?
Sorry, what's our count at the moment? Have we called everybody except for Mr. Reed?
I haven't counted Chair Wynn.
Miss
Yeah.
Willis. Carol
I went
Willis.
to call Ms. Willis. She abstained.
Yeah.
Chair Wynn?
Yeah.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 5 yeses and 2 abstentions.
And 1 no.
Right, and one no.
Okay. Generally, abstentions in the zoning world are seen as negatives.
Okay. Let me see if he's,
You sure you only have five?
Actually, Mr. Galvin, I think actually abstentions depends on how the vote goes. They go with the majority. So if it's a no vote, they go with the no. If it's a yes vote, they go with the yes.
I don't think so.
I can point you to probably, if you look at, I don't know if you have the current version of 2020 of Cox with you. If you look at page 441 and 442.
You're going to cite a case?
Uh,
Because I've done extensive research on this, way more than other things I do.
It says, well, Cox, it says, while there's no reported cases on the effect of abstentions, members of the board should be aware that under the common law, the rules that a member of a public body who abstains from voting is counted towards the quorum is regarding as assented to the vote of the majority. So then it goes.
I don't agree with Mr. Cox.
Okay.
All right? I have a treatise too, Tom.
There are some cases cited in here. I'm gonna get you to tell me you've read them, but the
Dude, I've done the research. All right? Don't worry about it. You just need a majority vote. 5's the majority.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were saying something else. My apologies.
I understand why. I understand why there were. I understand those 2 votes. We're trying. Janice is trying to reach out for.
Steve? I know, we're trying to, are you an A, what's your vote? You're, okay, he's a yes. Okay. All right. All right. Is that satisfactory? I called for
Put him on speaker and let him say yes.
I'm going to put you on speaker. All right. Now say yes.
I approve.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay.
Isn't technology wonderful?
It works. Okay, so we have.
I think we need to give ourselves some credit for our tenacity.
We have 6 yeses. And
So it carries.
Yeah, the vote carries.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
I'd like to take a 5-minute break. I need to contact Mr. Ian Wally.
Yes.
I'm going to mute everybody. Okay.
Just want to thank everyone, though, before you mute me. Thank you.
Good luck.
All right, good luck. All right. 5 minutes.
Are you someone, Steve? Are they on break? Didn't hear. I'm off.
behalf of the applicant, 423 Bloomfield Ave Properties LLC. This is a relatively straightforward site application for site plan approval to expand the two-story mixed-use building located at 423 Bloomfield Avenue in the C-1 Central Business District. This property has been owned by Scott and Pilar Kennedy for many years. They are the owners of Studio 042, the printing and reproduction business located on the first floor of this building, formerly known as Alpha Graphics for many years before. The Kennedys would like to construct an additional apartment in the rear of this building, which adjoins the Midtown parking lot, to be hopefully the Midtown parking deck. They intend to construct this apartment with the intention of occupying it as their primary residence. The addition is approximately a little less than 3,000 square feet. There are three, I think, relatively simple variances that are being sought in connection with this application, including of course, the obligatory parking deficiency variance in downtown Montclair. I have two witnesses to present this evening. Scott Kennedy will just provide some brief background information, followed by the project architect, Paul Sionis, who will discuss his plans and also provide testimony in support of the variances. Unless the board has any preliminary questions for me, I would call Scott Kennedy as my first witness.
Scott, raise your right hand.
Oh, I have a question. You said there's three variances. What are the other two, other than parking?
There's a setback variance. I guess it's rear yard. There's an existing non-conforming setback, and we're simply maintaining that existing by going higher, but not intruding any further into the setback. And then there's a variance for the proposed directory sign, which we propose to locate in the rear of the property. So those are the two variances in addition to parking deficiency variance for the two additional parking spaces, or demand for two spaces that we're creating.
Thank you.
Sure.
Kennedy, raise your right hand then. Do you
My right hand
swear
is
affirm?
risen.
What's that?
My right hand is risen.
Thank you so much. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Spell your last name.
Last name is Kennedy, Kennedy.
All right, your client.
Thank you. Scott, where do you presently reside?
263 Park Street in Montclair, New Jersey.
Okay. Are you one of the owners of 423 Bloomfield Ave Properties, LLC?
I am with my wife.
Okay. And the LLC owns the property that we're discussing this evening at 423 Bloomfield Avenue, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And when did you and your wife purchase that property?
2002.
Okay. And are you and your wife also the owners of the Studio 042 printing reproduction business that occupies the first floor of this building?
That is correct.
Okay. And how long have you operated this business at this location?
Since approximately 1992.
Okay. How, can you just briefly describe how the building is currently used?
The building has a full first floor that is approximately 2,500 square feet, and it has a residential apartment above the front only, which is approximately 1,000 square feet.
Okay. And recognizing that Mr. Sionis is going to discuss the plans in detail, would you just tell the board what it is you would like to do with this building?
Yeah, thank you. The remaining 2/3 of the second floor is just a flat, empty roof above the first floor, and we propose to build a 2-story, 3-bedroom duplex, 2,900 square feet, more or less, on that space, so that we can age in place here in Montclair. We arrived in the mid-'80s and have raised our kids here who have gone off to college. And we've got about 10 years left on our business plans, so we'd like to age in place there.
All right. So you and your wife would occupy this apartment, assuming it is approved and constructed?
That is absolutely correct.
Okay. I just want to discuss two issues relating to the plan. First of all, can you just tell the board how trash and recycling is currently handled for the building?
Studio 042 handles its recycling through the city, and the tenants upstairs, the residential tenants, handle their recycling through the city. The residential tenants put their garbage out on the street for the city to pick up, and Studio 042, because we recycle so much, we only have a small container of kitchen scraps that we take home once a week.
Okay, and sorry, are you finished?
Yep, thanks.
Okay, and how would trash and recycling be handled with regard to the expanded building?
On the back of the first floor, the new commercial tenants there would be responsible for theirs, as Studio 042 is responsible for theirs, the two tenants. And the residential unit above, all of the tenants would have access to the storage facility that's inside the back door on the Glenridge Avenue side, so that all the tenants would be able to put their recycling and their garbage in that room, and the landlord will make sure that it gets taken out to the curb and recycled properly.
Okay. What about parking? Have you, where would you anticipate that you and your wife would park your vehicles after you move into this apartment in the future? Have you made any arrangements regarding parking?
Ideally, we'd like to park it in the new deck when it gets done, if it gets done. But in the interim, we're going to use the Montclair parking facility. They have a lease with Chase Bank over on North Fullerton. So we have we've made arrangements with them to park our 2 cars there.
Okay, and you you obtained a letter from Montclair Parking confirming that. Is that right?
That's correct. That's in the package somewhere.
And that's been submitted to the board. I don't know, is it appropriate to mark that as an exhibit at this time?
What are you using as an exhibit?
It's a letter from, it's a letter dated September 8th, 2020 from Montclair Parking. It's 2 paragraphs.
Isn't it ready for the record, Janice?
This is the first hearing, so I haven't officially read the exhibits into the record. So this is probably a good time to do that.
All right.
All right, and after this meeting, I can send everybody the exhibit list. A1 is the application. A2 is the certification of taxes paid. The certification of publication. A4 is the affidavit of service. A5 are architectural drawings by site as stated 12/12/19 and revised 8/10/20. A6 is the report from Suburban Consulting Engineers dated February 19th, 2020. A7 is the report from Barton Ross dated July 1st, 2020. A8 is the report from the Planning Department dated July 14th, 2020. A9 is the HPC report dated July 24th, 2020. A10 is the report from Barton Ross dated September 9th, 2020. A11 is the report from the Planning Department dated September 8th, 2020. A12 is the PowerPoint presentation, which you'll see tonight. 8:13 are the renderings prepared by Mr. Paul Sionis. 8:14, which is this, is the letter from Montclair Parking dated September 9, 2020. And 8:15 is the HPC report dated August 27, 2020.
Okay.
All right, good job.
All right. Thank you, Janice. I have no further questions for Mr. Kennedy.
So you're going to call Mr. Sionis next?
Yes, I don't know if the board has any questions.
Yeah, are there questions from the board?
I have a question. This Montclair Park, is it a company? Is it there's no address. Can you just scroll down on this letter? Who are these people?
There is an address at the bottom of the letter.
All right. Oh, I see. Okay, thank you.
And I have a question of protocol. Mr. Sionis goes through his presentation, particular sheet or exhibit. We ask when he rather than waiting for him to finish, then having to go back. What would you prefer?
Who are you asking, Carl?
Yeah.
Yes, I was asking what, who's ever running the meeting, what would you prefer? Whether we ask questions when he's looking at an exhibit or wait until he has given his presentation?
I think you should wait till he gives his presentation and then ask questions. That's normal procedure.
Okay.
Right, and I will point out, Carmen and Carmel, that we have done this many times both ways. And so certainly, if something comes that makes sense to interrupt Mr. Sionis's presentation, I haven't necessarily prevented it. So I don't know why the question's coming up right now. But the normal way of conducting the examination is to let him finish his testimony. But we haven't held strictly to that for some time now. So.
And is there anybody else who had any other questions for Kennedy, for Mr. Kennedy? So we should move on to Mr. Sionis then.
Thank you, Dennis.
Okay.
There you go, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I call Paul Sionis as my next witness.
Do you swear or affirm a testimony about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And you're on mute, Mr. Sionis.
Oh.
I'm on now.
Well, just say yes.
I do, yes.
All right. And spell your last name.
S like in Sam, I-O-N-A-S like in Sam.
And I assume that you've appeared before this board many times. Is that correct?
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, do we accept his credentials?
We do.
Thank you.
All right, you may proceed.
Okay. Just for the record, I'm offering Mr. Sionis both as an architect and professional planner. All right. Paul, you prepared the plans for this project, correct?
Correct.
And you also prepared a PowerPoint presentation to assist you in discussing the plans, reviewing the plans this evening, correct?
Correct.
And I think that was marked as Exhibit A10, if I kept up with Janice's list. All right. Paul, would you please review the plans for the board using the PowerPoint to assist you?
Okay, thank you. So we put together a 22-slide PowerPoint to explain the project. The reason for the PowerPoint is we're able to insert color drawings, drawings that were part of the application but are colored for visibility. We've also inserted photographs and descriptions. The application for 423 Bloomfield Avenue, it's
12 lots. This is Mr. Galvin. Before you get going, when we see pictures, who took them and when did you take them?
Okay, I put that on each of the slides. So first,
fantastic. Go ahead. Go.
We've been through this a lot. So 423 Bloomfield Avenue, it's known as Lot 4 in Block 3205. It's in the C1 Central Business District, the center area. And as we've heard, it's an application to build a 2,965 square foot addition to the rear of the building by having a second and third story at the rear facing Glenridge Avenue. So the new addition will be a 2-story, 3-bedroom apartment for the owner, Scott and Co-op Committee. And on the roof will be a pergola covering a roof deck with sunshades or sun slats over the roof deck so they could sit on the roof out of the sun. Plus there'll be rooftop storage room, which I'll explain. The home's first floor business, which is Studio 042, faces Bloomfield Avenue as shown in this photograph. And it will remain, but it will be reduced in size. Actually, last year, the owner obtained a building permit to reduce the size of the first floor and to put to subdivide the space to create approximately 820 square foot professional office space at the rear of the first floor facing Glenridge Avenue. There's an existing apartment at the front second story of the building. That apartment is a one-bedroom apartment, and that will remain. Property is located on the north side of Bloomfield Avenue between North Willow Street to the east and Glenridge Avenue and Bloomfield Avenue intersections to the west. We've appeared at 2 historic commission meetings to date, and we've made changes to the building based on the results of the comments from the historic commission meeting. So we go to slide number 2, Janice. Slide number 2. This is a view of 423 Bloomfield Avenue. Mr. Kennedy took this with a drone. So this shows the top of 423 Bloomfield Avenue, looking north from above Bloomfield Avenue. You can see there was a hip roof originally on this building at the front portion of the building. And the building has gone through many changes over the years. It's our understanding it was built around 1890. It's gone through many changes to the facade and to the footprint over the building, and since 1890. Next slide, please. Slide number 3 is the view of the rear elevation of 423 Bloomfield Avenue. And this is looking south from the Midtown parking lot and Glenridge Avenue. And I've basically highlighted the subject property in an orange outline. Next slide, please. This is a view of the existing flat roof area of 423 Bloomfield Avenue. Again, this one's not labeled, but it was taken with drone photography by Mr. Kennedy. And we're looking south from above the Midtown parking lot and above Glenridge Avenue. And the area of the proposed addition is outlined in orange. So you can see outlined the area that there'll be a new 2-story addition, labeled it area of proposed addition, and then directly to the south of that orange box is an existing roof terrace that will remain. And as you can see, there are windows on the exterior wall of the adjoining building directly to the west, and we will not encroach upon the buildings to that neighboring building. The building directly to the east is the Cameron Animal Hospital, which is a 2-story building directly to the east. Next slide, please. Slide number 5, the top left is from the tax map and shows that this is lot 1, block 3205. We've highlighted it. Center image is from the zoning map. It was outlined in a dark rectangle for the subject property. So again, it's in the C1 zone, the town center historic district. And then the image on the right is an area map, and we've highlighted the subject property in a bright yellow color. And you can see property is located between Bloomfield Avenue to the south and Glenridge Avenue to the north. Next slide, please. This is the site plan, except it's been colored for better visibility. The lot is fairly small. It's 27.2 feet wide. It's 119.5 feet deep. It's only 0.074 acres in area, or 3,250 square feet. It's currently improved by the two-story commercial and residential building. The building covers almost 100% of the lot except for a 2-foot strip of ground cover planting along the rear. And you can see that's colored in green at the rear, so the 2-foot section where there's Pachysandra ground cover. And then directly to the north of this subject property is an asphalt paved parking lot that's part of Lot 28. And there's an existing easement that allows access across that adjoining paved parking area to the north. The next slide, please. This is the first floor plan. As I stated, the applicant already received building permits to reduce the size of Studio 042, which is the print center owned by Scott and Pilar Kennedy. They're creating a new 826 square foot commercial tenant office at the rear or the northerly side of this first floor. However, we're going to cut into that space. The bottom right of that drawing is a colored sort of a beige section in the bottom right labeled terrace, 119 square feet. So currently the building goes almost to the rear property line, but as an amenity to the that new first floor tenant, they're creating this 119 square foot terrace that's open to the exterior and also will provide interest to the facade on the exterior. So the proposal also is to create a new interior stair up to a new second and third floor residence above. And in the center of this drawing, you'll see a green triangle which points to that almost orange colored rectangular area. And then that rectangular area is the new stair that will be created on this first floor leading up to the second and third floor residence above. Next slide, please. Slide number 7, this is shows the existing apartment that's at the front of the building, the Bloomfield Avenue side of the building, or the left side of this floor plan. So that's the existing one-bedroom apartment that will remain. The lowest floor of the new apartment for the owner or for the applicant will begin just to the north of the lot line windows on the neighboring building to the west. So the windows are not shown here. I showed them in that drone photograph of the roof with the neighboring windows to the north, to the west, excuse me. The space between the existing apartment and the new addition will remain as a roof terrace, which will be an amenity for the existing apartment. The roof terrace is about 15 feet, 2 inches in width and 27 feet from west to east, and will be accessed from that existing apartment. The new second floor of the proposed apartment, this is the ground floor of Mr. Kennedy, Mr. and Mrs. Kennedy's proposed apartment. That will have a open kitchen, dining, living area. It will have a guest bedroom, a laundry room, plus another terrace. So we were asked to provide a lot of cutouts or indents into the Glenridge Avenue facade of the building. So this will have a 13-foot by 13-foot exterior terrace. And Mr. and Mrs. Kennedy asked that they be able to have planters on these terraces to provide green space. And, the lot is almost entirely covered with building. So this is the ground floor of the new apartment. Next slide, please, number 9. This is the top floor of the 2-story addition on the right. This will contain the master bedroom suite. So the top right of this floor plan is the master bedroom. There'll be a sitting area below that, a master bathroom, a master bedroom closet, and then the bottom left of the floor plan is the second bedroom. Top left is a den or home office. Another terrace is proposed or balcony is proposed for this floor level. So this will be a 13-foot by 13-foot exterior terrace facing north. And this floor steps back further from Glenridge Avenue than the floor below. Within this floor plan, up in the center of the floor plan is a stairway leading up to the roof level of the building. Next slide, please. Slide number 10. Yeah. Slide number 10, this is the roof plan. So the interior stair that's in the center of this floor plan
Leads up to a rooftop storage room, or they're also thinking of having it as a planting room. But the purpose is to have a sink and a countertop within the storage room that they could use for terrace gardening, and also to accommodate rooftop furniture. So the remainder of this space will be an open roof terrace. So they'll have rooftop furniture here, and they can store that furniture in the room at the top left labeled storage room. The lower left of this floor, in the darker grayish blue color, that's an area that will be covered by a hip roof metal pergola with roof slats, or to shade that area from the sun. So that will be at the south end of the patio. We're proposing that the air conditioning condensing units be placed at the northwest corner of this roof, shown by those 3 square boxes in the top left of this floor plan. And that will be placed, those will be placed up against a 72-inch high masonry parapet wall that will drop down to 42-inch high masonry parapet wall as it wraps around the northwest and north side where the cursor is now. So that'll be a 42-inch high parapet wall to provide privacy for the users of the rooftop, and also provide screening so you won't see those air conditioning units. The air conditioning units will also have a privacy screen, or a aluminum equipment screen, 42 inches high, to screen the rooftop units from the rest of that rooftop terrace. Next slide, please. This is a cross-section just to help explain the extent of the new addition. The existing building is shown in the blue. You see on the bottom right, the existing rear basement. First floor is the existing commercial space, which will be divided at the rear where the cursor is. That will be the office space that they already have the building permits for, but they intend to rent that out. To the left of that is the Studio 042 space. Top left of where the cursor is now is the existing 1-bedroom apartment with that hip roof. To the right of that is that roof terrace that I stated will be accessible from the existing apartment. The area in yellow is the 2-story apartment that's proposed, and then with the roof deck above with the pergola above the outdoor sitting area, and then that storage room, and then across the cut through shows that those 3 air conditioning condensing units. We're showing the windows of the neighboring building on this view. On plan view, you can see where we've cut the building back away from the neighboring building to not block any of those 3 windows. There is a box bay where the cursor is now. Box bay windows, the applicant has asked for window seats inside that space. That protrudes out about 1 foot 4 inches, but it steps back and then steps back again another 1 foot 3. So we'll have 2 foot 7 inches of space away from those windows on the neighbor's building. And you can see in this view in slide 11 how the building steps back as it goes up. Slide number 12, please. Next slide, please, Janice.
Is this 12? Is it
12, next one.
This is it, isn't it? It says 12.
Okay, that's 12, thank you. So this is just another cross-section just to show that the building steps back away from Glenridge Avenue as it goes up. The building gets indented where those 2 windows are shown, one on top of the other, that are not colored. So again, it shows that existing rear basement at the bottom, at the ground floor. That basement area, and I'll show on plan view, the basement area will be used for tenant storage plus trash and recycling, controlled by Mr. Kennedy. Next slide, please, number 13. Slide number 13 are 2 exterior elevations that have been colored for better visibility. The image on the right is the north elevation, or the Glenridge Avenue elevation. The image on the left is the south elevation, or the view seen from Bloomfield Avenue, the Bloomfield Avenue streetscape. So the exterior of the addition is to be brick with cast stone details, in addition to projecting box bays. The box bays, those are in the darker color. Those box bays will be clad with a smooth composite material, which will contrast with the brick and the cast stone. The front of the new addition is shown on that south elevation on the left. That's set back 65 feet from the Bloomfield Avenue facade. It's the owner's intent to eventually replace the stucco on the Bloomfield Avenue facade of the existing two-story space, also with brick and a similar treatment to what's proposed tonight. So we believe that stucco was installed on the facade of the building around 1980. So to my recollection, I recall seeing it recently installed around 1980. So it's not original. Those windows are not original. But the applicant would like to make this an entire brick and cast stone building in the future. There's at the north elevation, which is the image on the right, the new inset terrace proposed at the main business floor. So it's yes, where the cursor is, that's where the new terrace for the first floor tenant space will be, but it will be inset into the facade of the building, but there'll be a terrace with metal railing. And then a full width terrace spans the rear of the first floor of the residential space, right where that cursor is. So the building steps back further there, and that's the terrace that goes all the way across, and there's plants are shown. And that'll be the ground floor for the Kennedy's apartment. The floor above it, the second floor of the Kennedy's apartment, also has a terrace on that left side there. Steps back, and then you can see the roof deck above that's partially covered with the gable roof shaped pergola, and the storage room also with that gable roof shape. Next slide, please. Slide 14. Slide 14 is a view from the interior courtyard. So as I stated, there'll be a courtyard created from the rear of the existing one-bedroom apartment at the front of the building, and the new addition. So this will be the rear. This will be a brick-clad addition with the box space on the right, spanning 2 stories, and the box bay on the left. And then you can see the shaded area on the left. That's where the building steps in even further to make sure it doesn't block any of the windows in the neighboring building. You can see the at the top floor, there's a 6-foot-high parapet wall, brick and cast stone parapet wall above that roof deck level to provide privacy for Mr. Kennedy and his family up on that roof deck. Next slide, please. This is slide 15 is the east elevation, probably not seen from any views in reality, maybe from part of the new parking deck. I labeled and keyed the items. So number 1 is that metal slatted pergola above the roof deck. Number 2 is there'll be a tempered glass guardrail on the east side, and that's actually the best view of the New York skyline. We've replaced the brick parapet wall with tempered glass guardrail or tempered glass guardrail wall on that east side, so as not to block the view from the roof deck. Item number 3 shows that how that facade, the north facade, steps back as it goes up. So the very bottom to the right of the cursor is the existing building is correct. That's the line of the existing building, and that's the building that has a 2.1 foot rear yard setback, but we're stepping the setback back as the building goes up in height. So the entire addition steps back as it goes up. Next slide, number 16, please. This is a 3D rendered view. So this is a rendered view of the proposed proposed addition to the building, inserted into a photograph taken by my office. So this is as viewed from the north from Glenridge Avenue. You see to the left is the existing Midtown parking lot. To the right is the facade that has the map of the old road, which was the original name for Glenridge Avenue. So on the building to the right or to the west, you can see the five-story Madison building to the right of that, as seen from Glenridge Avenue. And then to the left of our subject building is hard to see behind the trees, but the back of the Cameron Animal Hospital, plus some of the other buildings that front onto Bloomfield Avenue. Next slide, please. Slide 17. This is we asked the renderers to insert the rendering into a photograph taken from my office, standing across the street from the sidewalk on the south side of Bloomfield Avenue. And as you can see, the addition is not visible from the south side of Bloomfield Avenue. And I have some diagrams to show why it's not visible. But this is the existing facade, and it shows that the new addition is not visible from the south side of Bloomfield Avenue. Okay, next slide, please. Slide 18, this is a contextual view. This is where we asked the renderer to insert the proposed addition into a photograph, plus we added the renderings that we obtained from the Township of Montclair of the proposed midtown parking deck to show how this will all fit in context to each other. So the five-story Madison building is to the right, and we've calculated that there will be views of the New York City skyline from the top of 423 Bloomfield Avenue above the new parking deck, because the parking deck is slightly lower in height. Glenridge Avenue slopes down to the east. So again, we originally looked at the parking deck and the surrounding buildings to come up with a brick and cast stone building. The facades of 423 Bloomfield Avenue will be brick with cast stone elements. Okay, next slide, please. This is a site diagram that I described. So this is a person standing. So this slide number 19 is a site diagram of a person standing on the south side of Bloomfield Avenue. And this is there's a 6 foot tall person looking up, and what their the vision would be. So as it shows, they would not see the top of this building or this building from the south side of Bloomfield Avenue. For the next slide, number 20, please, Janice. This is on the north side of the property. This is slide number 20. It's a sightline diagram. Person standing on the north side of Glenridge Avenue, looking at the subject property. So they, again, a 6 foot tall person looking at the top of the building. They would not see the pergola or that storage room at the top of the building standing on the sidewalk. They would see it from the second or third floor of a building on Glenridge Avenue, but a person standing on the sidewalk would not see the pergola, which is what was requested by the applicant to have privacy on that rooftop. Next slide, please, number 21. Slide number 21. The bottom image is an enlargement of the base of the Glenridge Avenue facade of the building. So this is the ground floor where the entrance is to the lower level to the building, and then the upper floor. Ground floor, there's an existing entrance. We're changing we're going to change the heavy masonry walls that surround those steps. Many people use this entrance to go to Studio 042 coming from the Midtown parking lot or parking on Glenridge Avenue. It's easier sometimes to park in the rear and enter Studio 042 from the rear. This will become the entrance not only to Studio 042, but to that new subdivided professional office space directly above this entrance, and also be the entrance to the apartment, the new two-story apartment above. Part of the application calls for a new sign, one new sign, and then drawing in the bottom left shows we're proposing a bronze or black or brass plaque, a metal plaque just to the right of the existing door. The
bronze plaque will be approximately a maximum of 2 feet by 3 feet in size. It'll have the street number of the property. Underneath it will list Studio 042, and then below that will list the name of the tenant. There's a variance requested for this sign because it's not directly adjacent to the tenant space. This is the only visibility for Studio 042 and for that future tenant. So we think this is a good variance to ask for. There's no other visibility for people who, or wayfinding for people entering the rear of this building. This slide also shows the basement plan above. So the top of this slide on the right side is the rear basement plan where the cursor is. It shows the rear entrance to the building, which is what I described at the bottom left. And then there's an existing room that will be tenant storage room. So this will be about 563 square feet of storage for Mrs. Kennedy's apartment, as required by the ordinance, and will also allow for tenant trash and recycling storage that will be controlled by the applicant. It will allow for also bicycle storage for the same apartment. The left side of that is an existing utility area for the building. That's there now. There will be no changes to that. And then the bottom right of this slide is the lighting system. Basically, three light fixtures are proposed for this application. The three on that main floor facade, those are decorative lights that will be very similar to a residential style light fixture, similar to a 60-watt light fixture, whatever the LED equivalent is. The single wall sconces, both decorative and to provide a little bit of a glow on the facade of the building. And then there'll be two lights adjacent to the rear entrance where the cursor is now. Again, those will be decorative lights, but we'll also provide some lighting for safety at that rear entrance. And then the third light is that wall-mounted gooseneck sconce where the cursor just went over, and that'll be above that bronze or brass wayfinding plaque at the ground floor of the building. That lower floor of the building, you can see it better in this. We're proposing to remove all the stucco. The lowest floor, we're going to have a cast stone facade to have the appearance of limestone, and the lower part of it, the lower 2 feet, as many of older traditional buildings have, will have darker colored granite veneer base to really anchor the building. That limestone look will be separated from the brick by the cast stone band directly above the ground floor, and then the rest of the building will be brick. There will be a decorative brick course, as you can see in this lower image, decorative brick course above the doors to that terrace, running from left to right, and we repeat that decorative brick course on the other floors above. There'll be a built-in planter, as you can see above the terrace. Built-in planter will have the same facade material as the smooth board, the smooth composite board. But again, to provide more interest to the facade, the top of that lowest level will have a cast stone band to really separate this main business floor level from the remainder of the building. Okay, next slide, please. This is the last slide just to discuss the zoning, and it helps me to write this out in my presentation. So a variance is requested from Montclair Code 34783B4, which requires a rear yard setback of 10 feet. The proposed addition, and there's a typo, the proposed addition has a rear yard setback of 2.1 feet. So we're matching the existing condition. The existing condition, building has a 2.1 foot rear yard setback. We're matching that. However, as the floors that we've added are stepping back to be much greater than the 2.1 feet, as they mentioned. The rear addition steps back further away from Bloomfield Avenue, Glenridge Avenue as it goes up. The second variance is that I stated about the sign. So this is a variance request from 347-110.1A2 states that wall signs shall not extend beyond the portion of the building occupied by the reference business. And we're seeking a variance for the 6 square foot business directory sign that's proposed on the rear of the building next to the existing rear door. And as I stated before, most customers park in the Midtown lot and use this rear entrance. So the small wall plaque is proposed to identify the business and provide wayfinding. Any sign that we place on this facade would require a variance, but we do feel the need for a sign on this facade of the building, 45042, which is at the front of the building. So there's a variance requested for that. And then the third variance is that from Montclair Code 347-101, which requires 2 parking spaces for the new 3-bedroom apartment, and no spaces are provided. And as you've heard in earlier testimony, or maybe the introduction, the applicant has obtained an agreement from Montclair Parking to provide 2 parking spaces on an ongoing basis in one of its parking lots in the vicinity of 423 Bloomfield Avenue. So the property is completely covered by the building, so it prevents providing any on-site parking. So the applicant has actually reached out to Montclair Parking and formed this agreement, reached an agreement for them to provide him 2 parking spaces. And as he stated, the closest lot currently is the Chase parking lot on the east side of North Fullerton Avenue. So he intends to park there until the Midtown parking deck is constructed, but we don't know the date for the completion of that. I think these variances can be justified and granted both under the C1 and C2 grounds. Under the C1 hardship grounds, the building completely covers the property. There's no to create a parking area. Under the C2 analysis, the purposes of zoning are advanced. The benefits substantially outweigh any detriment. And in my opinion, it's because we're promoting a desirable and visual environment. We're promoting a desirable and desirable visual environment based on the proposal to completely redo the facades of this building. We met with the Historic Commission twice. The first time, they made many suggestions and comments. We went back in a second time with the facade that's proposed tonight. They seem to like it a lot. We have the comments from Barton Ross, the Historic Commission and Planning Board consultant. Mr. Ross seems to be in favor of the proposed facade. So I believe that the benefits of the variance request substantially outweigh any detriment. And that concludes my testimony. Alan, do you want me to read you the engineer's letter, or?
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you a couple of follow-up questions,
Okay.
specifically referring to the letter from Suburban Consulting Engineers, February 19, 2020. I think most of this has been covered, Paul.
Correct.
A couple of comments. With respect to the lighting that you discussed, does the lighting intensity as shown on your plan comply with the Montclair site plan ordinance?
Yes, yes, it does. These are more decorative lights. The ground-mounted light is for safety.
Okay. There's also a comment, I don't know that you need to discuss it, but there's no landscaping proposed as part of this plan, is that right?
Correct. There's a 2-foot strip, existing strip at the back of the property, which has a pachysandra ground cover, and that will remain.
Okay. And I think you also covered this in your testimony, but just to make sure, comment number 6 in that report refers to the mechanical equipment, specifically rooftop equipment.
Correct. I covered that the 3 proposed air conditioning condenser units will be on that roof. They'll be adjacent to a 6-foot-high solid masonry wall right at the property line to block any view of that those units from Glenridge Avenue or adjacent properties. They will also be screened by the 42-inch high mechanical equipment screen placed on the roof between the condensed units and the roof, in addition to the 42-inch high masonry parapet wall that surrounds the rooftop of this building.
Okay, I think that pretty much covers it. No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Questions from the board?
I have a question.
Please proceed.
Okay, so, is the building, to the left of applicant residential or commercial?
Carmel, you're cutting off. Is the question, go ahead.
Is the building to the left of the applicant's property as you're looking on Bloomfield Avenue, is that a commercial building or does it have residential units?
The building directly to the west, which is known as 425 Bloomfield Avenue, to my knowledge, has commercial use on the ground floor, and I believe currently it has residential uses on those upper floors. Previously, the two of the floors were office space. I actually worked in one of those spaces about 32 years ago when it was an office. But I believe that the top three floors are residential use now.
So the lighting that's proposed for the roof deck, will that shine into the residential units?
No, not at all. The roof deck has a very high masonry wall along the western property line. So that would prevent any lighting spilling from that roof deck to the adjoining property. The roof deck is separated from that adjoining building by that top floor storage room. That's that room that I labeled as almost a potting shed and storage room. So that would prevent spillage of any light, even if it's from candles or flashlights on that roof deck, from spilling over to the adjoining building to the west.
The same question applies to the lower terrace that goes in the middle of the two sections, that the windows of the adjacent building look over this into this terrace. Is there lighting there that will be changed that could potentially glare into those residential units?
Yeah, I'm looking at, Janice, can you pull up slide number 4, please? Right, thank you. So slide number 4, Carmel, that shows the area that's to become the roof deck. And there is a light currently directly above those two large window openings, directly to the center, under the center line of that gable roof. We weren't proposing to change that lighting. That lighting is downward pointing. It points directly to the floor of that roof deck. I don't believe that currently gets into the adjoining windows.
There's no additional lighting planned for that area?
No, there is not.
Paul, can I interject?
Go ahead.
The first two floors of that building, 425 Bloomfield, is commercial, and so those two windows that are near the patio for those tenants, those are commercial windows. It's been vacant for over a year now.
Thanks for clarifying that, Scott.
That used to be Senator Nia Gill's office.
Correct.
Back to the condenser units that are on the roof. The condenser units on the roof.
Yes.
So are those are on the side next to that the building that we're talking about, 425, I guess it is. What kind of noise will they make?
Those have been removed already since this photograph was taken. Scott, can you please correct me if I'm wrong, but you installed new wall-mounted condenser units on that brick facade? Can you correct me, Scott?
Yes, the large condenser unit that you see in the foreground has been completely removed, and the second one there that's closer to those windows for that apartment, that has been de-energized, and the Freon has been removed, and that'll be removed as well. To the left of that window, a small heat pump condenser unit has been installed for Studio 042 space, where Paul has the cursor now, and that satisfies the needs for the print shop.
Actually, I was talking about the new roof. There's 3 units that are going to be on the new roof.
Oh, on the top roof. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, the sound and the noise from those will be blocked by the masonry wall that will be to their west.
Okay, just one more question then. You have 2 ductless split units in the first floor,
Right.
and where do they drain their water?
Scott?
They currently drain their water into a container in the basement of the building, and then that gets pumped out to the curb.
Okay. And who is Montclair Parking? That's not a town organization, is it?
No, the Montclair Parking is a private organization that leases, or either owns or leases lots, and then leases them to people like me. So, for example, when the Midtown parking deck was proposed over a year ago, I used to rent 2 parking spaces from Montclair Township in that surface lot, and I moved my current tenants over to Montclair Parking at Chase Manhattan Bank.
Okay. There's no guarantee that that company will continue to own those lots and not develop them.
So I can address that. There is no guarantee, but, you know, we are prepared to stipulate as a condition of this approval that the applicant will secure and maintain 2 permits, 2 permits, licenses, whatever, to park either in the Midtown deck or any of the other private lots within walking distance of the building.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Tremulak, how do we enforce that once the applicant sells the building or leaves?
Well, it's a condition of the approval, and I guess the board could require periodic reporting or certification that the permits are in place. I think it's important to remember also that these are for Mr. and Mrs. Kennedy, you know, not only the owner of the building, but they're going to be the ones living there and the ones who are going to have to park cars. So
for the moment, for the immediate future.
Well, that's true.
But I mean, there's, you know, that's not going to go on in perpetuity. The building's going to be there long after they leave.
Mm-hmm.
And the new apartments are going to be there long after they leave. So again, the question is, if we tie a condition on these residential units that have parking, how do we enforce it? And what happens if they don't comply?
Well, I leave that to the board. I don't know how you've done that with other applications, because I know the board has very frequently allowed for off-site parking, either in public lots or other.
We've done it with businesses, and I mean, we can always, you know, shut down the business. How do we shut down a residential unit? I mean, it's a different animal.
Well,
you know.
Okay. Well, I don't think anyone would ever allow situations. I guess you could, but I don't see why anyone would ever allow that to happen. People living in that apartment.
I can think of plenty of reasons why they would have. They don't have a car, and it's an expense. It's not a stretch. It's not a stretch. It's not off the wall.
Okay.
Somebody buys the building, you know, they're not going to live there. They're renting it out. They don't care.
Okay. I mean, again, Mr. Chairman, you know, there's going to be several hundred parking spaces available in the deck when it's built. It's literally right next door. I know the board has allowed for applicants and other applications to satisfy parking by committing to purchase permit spaces in town lots. And, you know, I haven't looked at those approval resolutions recently and see how the board ensured that those permits were maintained. But, I mean, the board wanted to provide for an annual certification to be submitted, confirming that the permits were in place to allow for this. We would certainly agree to that. Whatever other mechanism you may feel is appropriate. We're only talking 2 cars.
I also believe there's a wait list for permits at this time. I don't know if you know how many are on there, Janet?
For the new deck, Robin?
For all, I mean,
yeah, no,
yeah, I mean, it's, I don't know, there's a wait list for the other.
I know there's always a wait list for most of the other lots. I doubt there's a wait list for the new deck yet, but
right. Well, yeah.
I mean, again, all we can do is make the commitment and agree to comply with it, and whatever enforcement mechanisms the board may want to insert, we'd be happy to comply.
I think that's something that we're going to have to talk about. Let me switch gears, and Mr. Sionis, I just want to look at the south side of the proposal. When I was looking at the depiction, there's some inconsistencies in the PowerPoint renderings about what we're seeing, but if you go to slide 11.
13? Oh, 11?
No, let's start at 11. And 11 is supposed to be showing what, Mr. Sionis? What?
This is a cross section through the westerly side of a slice to the westerly side of that new addition plus the existing building.
So now if we go to the next slide 12, what does that show?
That's the easterly side of that new addition. So that's the difference is that you see those terraces.
The opposite side. The opposite side.
Correct.
Okay. So the bump out. On one, this is the other side, but on slide 11, the bump out kind of impedes on one window, and on slide 12, it impedes on 2 windows.
Correct. Because there's two different box bays on that south elevation. One is only a 1-story box bay, so that top floor box bay is only a 1-floor box bay. If you look at slide 11, Janice. 11.
And it's a 2-story.
Yeah. So you
but
see
I mean, it still sticks out, though.
Correct. Right.
So, how far is that bay from the window?
How
many people?
I don't have the measurement. It's 7,475. It's approximately. I'm looking at slide number 9. Dennis, could you pull up slide number 9? Yeah. 747. 7 and 9. 16. 3, 4, 3, 4. It's about 5 foot 4. So it's approximately 5 foot 4 inches from the box bay to the wall, that westerly wall of the neighboring building. 5 foot 4.
So that person's going to look out and they're going to basically see that bay 5 feet away from their window.
They'll see part of that bay 5 feet 4 inches away from that window at an angle, yes.
At an angle. It looks from, if you look at slide 11, it looks like it's blocking 3/4 of the window at least.
11. All right, the box bay correct, in that view, it's blocking about 3/4 of that window at the second floor.
Mm-hmm. And that's a residential unit.
Yes, it is. To my understanding, that's a residence.
And so on the other side, as you go down the, I guess the westerly side of the building, I was trying to understand again. I guess it doesn't impede too much on the building, on the windows that are on the 5-story building. There's a decent amount of space there.
Correct.
The drawing that you have on slide 4 kind of throws me off because the area of the proposed addition doesn't impinge on any windows.
Correct. That's an approximation. It doesn't show the box bays or the cutouts for that southerly wall of that proposed addition. Correct.
Yeah.
It's a better view on the drawing.
So the area of the roof terrace, of the roof rather, that will go in between the new construction and the 5-story building. All those windows on the back, is the new building gonna, because it goes up to basically the roof of that building, right?
Correct.
It's going to be a little higher. It's going to be, once you put up the pergolas and stuff, it's going to be higher than the roof.
That's correct.
So
the pergola is higher than the neighboring roof.
How is that going to affect the light to those windows now? Because effectively now you're creating a canyon back there. And how's the light going to be affected back there?
Well, obviously the new addition will block some of that morning light to those windows, the easterly light.
How much? Right now they get light. They get sunshine. But is this going to cut off all? Is this going to cut off most of it? I mean, I don't have an idea.
Okay. So
how it's going to impact.
Looking at slide 4, we're not blocking any of the windows on that north facade of that 425 Bloomfield Avenue. That's the north facade. They do get natural light. The natural light will not be blocked by this new addition. If anything, there will be early morning, coming from New York City, the early morning easterly sun will cast a shadow on a portion of those windows early in the morning. And as the sun moves around to the further to the south, it will not block any of the sunlight. From early in the mid morning to the rest of the day when the sun is on the south side, until it goes all the way across the other side of Bloomfield Avenue. And normally these windows don't get any late afternoon sun. They don't get any westerly sun. So yes, it will block some morning sun on these windows.
So they don't get any afternoon sun. It's going to block some of the morning sun, but they'll get midday sun.
Correct. Late morning and midday, yes.
Let's switch gears again and go to the materials that you're using on the box bay.
Right.
And also on the little bump out, I guess, that's on the, that's the second floor of the apartment, I guess?
Yeah.
Is the material going to appear as seamless as it does in the rendering?
Yes, that's
It's
the
going to
goal.
be it'll be solid pieces?
The goal is to have a seamless piece cut out around the windows, yes.
Okay, so, and the material is going to be what?
It'll be a smooth composite board, such as a fiber cement panel.
What's it going to look like?
It'll look like what's shown on, Janice, if you go to slide 21. And that bottom left image.
Where, is there any place in town where I can see in real life what that would look like? Is that the type of board that's being used in other buildings? Because again, this is a drawing. It's not, it's colored nicely, but I don't know what it's going to look like based on this, other than brown.
Right. It's actually an olive brown. I'll think of other places in the area where it's being used successfully.
And for the terrace that is on the, I guess, first floor over the entrance doors, are those railings?
Yes.
Or is that solid?
No, those are metal railings, open metal railings.
So can you see?
You could see through to the glass beyond.
Okay, so contrary to what the drawing shows, you can see through. It's not going to be a solid piece where the windows are going to cut off at the top of the railing.
So this is one case where the drawing is not done well, and you cannot see the windows beyond the railings, with the glass beyond the railing.
All right, but on slide 18, that's a more accurate rendering.
That's a more accurate rendering of seeing the glass through the railing, both on that lower business level floor and on that top left residential floor. That's more accurate.
Now, on the drawings, and I'm trying to see which one shows it best. One of the drawings here, I thought, kind of shows the detail in the brickwork.
Yes.
But is there any place where that is laid out for the building where I can see that for the entire building about how that brickwork is? Because it seems like I can only see it in bits and pieces.
Right. You have to enlarge the screen.
Which slide?
Okay, I'm looking at slide slide 13. Here's slide 13, and Janice, can you enlarge the right side image?
Well, and I've got it up on my screen, and I'm enlarging it for myself.
Okay.
So,
if you can enlarge it more, Janice, yeah.
So is the brick on the second floor terrace, is the brick around the doorway, is it that it's recessed, or is it a different color?
No. Let me look on the check.
Because it's a different color on the drawing, but I can't tell, because you've got a balcony above it, I can't tell whether it's meant to be recessed, whether it's meant to be shadowed, or whether it's meant to be a darker color.
Thanks, John. That's meant to be shadow from the balcony above.
All right.
So all the brick will be the same color. Yes.
All right. So the brickwork that's done on the building is set out on the drawings,
Yeah.
these patterns?
Yeah. Janice, can you make that larger, that elevation? More?
And the bump outs that we have, how are the edges going to be finished with these bump outs?
It'll be mitered.
Are they going to mitered edges? Okay.
Yeah. We'll avoid metal strips.
So the idea is that they're going to be smooth boxes.
Correct. That's the idea.
And the materials for the roof on the pergola and the storage room, are they going to be similar, or is it different, or just the same color?
The pergola will have metal sun-shaped slats. So the idea is to have the pergola roof be open, but covered with sun-shaped slats, metal slats, to provide protection from the sun. Instead of solid roofing. The roof over the storage room, potting room, that was proposed to be a composition shingle roof. In the appearance, the goal is to have it dark gray, similar to slate, but not slate.
So the pergola only comes out, but so far, again, I'm trying to understand the drawings.
Okay.
And the kitchen. So it looks like a solid roof covers or extends to maybe a quarter of the pergola area. I'm talking about the very top. And I'm on slide, I think I'm still on the same slide that we were before. And I see where the slats are, and you've got proposed metal slats with metal pergola frame, and you've got arrows, but it seems to be like there's a small like quarter section of it that's got a solid piece.
Correct.
And then I
Go ahead, Tom.
No, and then I see a pyramid kind of shape that appears to be, some sort of gable or something like that. So is the roof that's going over the storeroom, is it going to be gabled or something like that, and it's going to partially extend onto the pergola? How does that work?
Right. So to answer the first question about the solid piece over the pergola, so the solid piece is to cover a solid beam that will extend to that corner of the pergola roof to support a future fan, a ceiling fan. The client has asked to have a beam that will be able to accommodate a ceiling fan hung from a beam to move air underneath that pergola when they're sitting under that pergola. So that's the reason for that solid shape. Then that hip roof shape in the view we're looking at, that is partially over. So that's partially over the stairway that leads down to the floor below, and the client had asked for a light-filled or glass enclosed stairway, so that light would come from this rooftop down the stairwell into the floor below. So these windows surround the stairway that leads from the floor below up to this rooftop. And then there's that hip-shaped roof in the center of this image. And that is just to like more of a decorative roof shape and to make sure that the water flows, and we didn't wind up with a flat roof up on this the stair enclosure and the storage room. So yes, it has a hip roof shape above that storage room, potting room.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. And Janice, in terms of this building, is there enough covered roofing up here for this to qualify as another floor?
I think Janice is muted.
Okay. Yes, so this property, it does constitute a floor? We permit 6 stories in the zone.
Right. I know that, but I just want to understand that this is it's not a 2-story addition. It's a 3-story addition, right?
Right.
I also question that kind of piggybacks on that. You keep referring to this as an apartment, but in essence, could it also be called a 2, 3-story, 3-bedroom house? It's like a single-family house, has its own entrance and all. And is it zoned for a single-family house? This area?
Robin, it's basically a dwelling unit. It's a large dwelling unit / apartment. It's part of it. It's a mixed-use building that includes 1 small apartment and 1 really big apartment.
And commercial space.
Right.
And that kind of takes me down to another question I wanted to ask about this, because you talked about the parking. But since the ground floor is subdivided, you could actually turn the rear ground floor into a garage.
Right.
If you put doors back there, you could pull cars right from ground level into that first floor.
No, I'm sorry, you would never be able to do that because we can't get cars across that property, which we have an easement, and the storage room is not deep enough. The storage room is not deep enough to get a car in there. It's only about.
Oh, I'm not talking about.
John, somehow you got muted.
You're unmuted now.
Okay, thank you. Going back, I got 2 screens and I'm going back and forth between different plans. But if you go to slide 7. Now, slide 7, this will be from the back. Slide 7 will show the 2nd floor with that terrace.
That's the first floor above grade in the back, yes.
First floor above grade. So really from the back, it looks like it's the 2nd floor. And you're saying that underneath that space, there's only an 8-foot storage room?
Correct.
You could raise it.
It can't be excavated? Isn't there foundation around it?
John, it cannot be excavated. John, it cannot be excavated because the easement is for passenger or foot traffic only.
No, that's not true.
Is that true?
I don't think that's correct, Scott. I have to look at the easement, which I am.
That ground floor storage room is also 3 feet above grade. So it would be impossible to do, and we would never get it past the neighbors.
I'm not so
neighbors-
sure about that.
John, the neighbors park their cars on that lot, so we'd have to, in a sense, get them to move all three of their cars in order to get a car into your fictitious garage.
If you have an easement across the property, they can't block your easement.
The easement clearly says that they can use that space for parking, and we can use the space for foot traffic.
This is Tony, I'm reading a copy of the easement that was provided in the application. Mr. Kennedy is correct. The neighbors can park the cars. The only right to parking is in emergency repairs of Studio 002.
Does Tony
It's,
doesn't say that
including the
the
application
easement is
form.
only for foot traffic?
So how's this project going to get built?
The easement allows for construction, reconstruction, and I guess you just ask permission. I mean, I'm not answering for the applicant, but it happens all the time. Also, as long as it's like 11 o'clock, I just like to make one comment. We talked a lot about parking. I wouldn't get into a situation where you create a really complicated mechanism to enforce this. We're talking about one apartment in all of downtown, and there's a lot of investment going into this building. It's a really good thing. If there's no parking, the owner takes the risk. You gotta use that unit if parking can't be acquired. I just think that we're worrying way too much about that.
Well, Tony, I'm not worried about the current owner. I'm worried about the next owner. I'm looking down the road a bit.
I'm not worried about the next. It's an awesome investment for
You
downtown.
have to be worried about the next because the building is not going to go away when this owner goes away.
I don't
The
believe,
building is
I'm
there.
not arguing
It's
with
gonna be there
anyone.
in perpetuity.
I'm just stating my viewpoint. I'm not looking to argue at all. That's
No, well,
my
I'm not.
opinion.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying that you are. I'm just saying that I have a different opinion on it.
Well, I will make a comment in relation to that because I do think it's relevant. I think it's interesting, in hearing, and again, listening to these types of things now more frequently and semi-recently from this perspective, sitting here. I find it interesting when we talk about parking variances as an obligatory issue, and granting parking variances with quite ease is just surprising and shocking to me, actually. Here we have a development that by all sites does not have any necessary or specific public good that's associated with it. While there's increased value and increased value to the property, the township and residents and taxpayers are the ones that have to foot the bill for the parking, in essence, when a variance is granted. When I hear comments about there's going to be some parking secured and then we're just going to park in the deck, well, I had reached out recently because I keep hearing this all the time. It's just 2 more spaces or it's just whatever else. So I looked it up, and right now there are 298 people on the waiting list for permits. The longest wait time, 22 months ago, people waiting for those permits. Township, and again, through taxpayers and everyone else, figuring out a way to build parking decks to meet these demands and these needs, is building a new deck. That's correct. That deck has 315 spaces. Looking at a breakdown of those spaces, I can tell you right now, about 70% for permits parking, and of course the other parts divided out for meters, et cetera. You're looking at about 220 spaces, minus the 51 that exist there, gives you 169 new spaces. Again, 298 people currently on the waiting list. If all of them were to park in this new lot, a new deck, by the way, that still gives you 129 people waiting for parking. So one way or another, residents are always forced to either build more parking decks at a cost to residents and taxpayers, or deal with the frustration of not finding parking. Because you always hear of these creative, we're just going to give them 2 spots in this, in whatever created entity we're talking about, or whatever spaces that we're making up somehow that they're getting that they're not building new ones of. So for me, I think it's a very frustrating piece when you hear of yet the very, I guess, cavalier way it's offered that it's an obligatory parking variance. I couldn't disagree with it more. It's a cost to taxpayers, it's a cost in frustration, and it's a cost that is repeated over and over and over until the township has to rectify it through tax dollars to try and come up with something that, again, subsidizes the profit of private ownership. So if there is a private profit to be made and improvements to be made, that parking obligation should be taken care of as per the requirement. Thank you.
Well, going back to the, and I have to take another closer look at the easement that we've got here, but going back to the plans, was I correct in understanding, Mrs. Fernandez, that the terraces in the interior terraces, that there's not going to be any lighting that's going to impact on the residential units that open onto that interior? Because right now it's not really a roof. You've got the air conditioner unit. Nobody's lounging out there in the evening. I take it too much. So, but there's not going to be any lighting or interference with the other building.
As I stated, there's one existing light as shown in slide 4, and just want to verify if there are any other lights shown. On slide 8, there were 2 wall sconces shown, flanking both the west side and the east side of the doors to that apartment. Those were the wall sconces that could be selected to shine down onto the floor of the roof terrace, not shine into the apartment windows or shine to the left and to the right.
Right. So those sconces are going to replace the existing light?
Right. This is showing the 2 wall sconces, and it does not show the existing light on this plan.
All right.
So we could do either. We could have the existing light or a light to replace that existing light that would still shine down above the doors, or have the wall sconces, residential style wall sconces with a stipulation that they have covers that wouldn't let light shine, towards the windows or to the property lines.
All right. So if I'm looking at slide 4, and it looks like the existing light, if I'm looking at it correctly, is mounted kind of high. And is it that fixture that's close to the wall? Or
yeah,
is it
right
that
where the cursor was, Janice, directly above the center of those windows, right under that roof vent there. Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of high. What's over in the corner? Where the block windows are, in between the block windows and the wall of the other building?
That's the clothes dryer or the vent for the kitchen that's inside that glass box.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I think it would probably be preferable to eliminate that high mounted light and have lower mounted sconce with directed light.
I agree.
And let's see. I think that covers my questions for the moment. Any other questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I have one.
Yeah.
Are any of the balconies in the right of way? No. Okay.
Right. I don't hear any other questions from the other members of the board. Are there questions from members of the public with respect to Mr. Sionis' testimony this evening?
Yes. Yes.
There's questions at this time.
Yes.
Identify yourself, say your full name for the record.
Didn't know if you could hear me. Thank you. It's Jonathan Goulden with the law firm of Clark Goulden Attorneys at Law, 20 Church Street. I've been retained to represent the neighboring property owner that we've been talking about at 425 Bloomfield Avenue, which is DSV Associates, LLC. So I appreciate a lot of the comments and questions from the board of Mr. Sionis did address some of the concerns of my client as the adjoining property owner. And we've talked about this easement particularly, which is referenced on page 6 of the PowerPoint presentation. Janice, I didn't catch at the beginning. Did we mark the application as an exhibit which had the attached easements?
Yes, that's A1.
A1, okay, good. So, Mr. Sionis, you've reviewed the easement documents, correct?
No, I have not. No.
Well, in your slide 6, you have a note. It says easement note. This is in the PowerPoint presentation, slide 6. And you note subject tenant has access to cross the easement for access to Glenridge Avenue. How did you come to that conclusion?
Well, we refer to the survey map prepared by Hingos, which states land over which easement is granted to owners of Lot 4. And then the applicant stated that he has access to cross the easement for access to Glenridge Avenue. So the wording is from the applicant. The wording on the survey is just land over which easement is granted to owners of Lot 4.
Well, in the easement, which is dated January of 1994, between the two prior owners of these properties, there's an easement and addendum to easement. The addendum to the easement, which is attached to the application, I guess it's been marked as A1, there's a drawing where my client's predecessor granted the applicant an easement to make improvements to that back area of the property, I guess the rear basement entrance, and there's a drawing attached. Have you reviewed that drawing?
I have not seen that drawing, no.
The easement specifically states that my client's predecessor grants, quote, no easement for any additional construction or any changes to the attached plan unless specifically agreed to in writing by both parties, end quote. So you have not made any analysis or come to any conclusion as to whether the improvements being proposed are consistent with the drawing attached to the easement?
I have not, no.
With respect to the easement, well, actually, if you go back to your PowerPoint slide, I guess it's slide 7 would be the best. We got slide 7?
Slide 7 is up on the screen.
Okay, I guess I have a delay on my YouTube here, but all right. So slide 7, it looks to me like there is, and I think you testified that the main point of ingress and egress for the proposed residential addition would be through that back basement doorway.
Janice, let's go back to a different slide. Which slide would you like to see? I don't think 7 is what you want.
No, 7 is what I want.
Okay.
Because I guess what I'm trying to get to is there 2 ways of ingress and egress to the residential, proposed residential addition?
There's two ways of egress or ingress and egress to the residential addition is first through the Studio 042 commercial space, which is the left side of this slide. And then the second way is the rear stairway, which is the right side of the slide.
Right, so on slide 7, the commercial tenant, the new commercial tenant, the subdivided space, and the new proposed residential improvement, in order to get out to Bloomfield Avenue, they would actually have to walk through that communal hallway through Studio 42 out to Bloomfield Avenue.
That's correct.
Correct?
Correct.
So in reality, the commercial tenant, tenant space number 2, and the residential tenant would really primarily be using the back egress-ingress as the primary means of ingress and egress, correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
With respect to that trash room, which is going to be on the rear basement level, I don't know what slide best shows that. Probably towards the end. Yeah, so probably slide 21 is best. So my understanding of your testimony is that trash room is going to be used for all tenants, residential, commercial number 2, and existing Studio 42, correct?
That's my understanding, correct.
And in order for that trash to be brought out to the curb, you're either going to have to drag it up that staircase through the first floor, through the communal hallway, through Studio 42 to Bloomfield Avenue, or it would just go out the rear entrance doorway through the easement, right?
I'm not sure it's allowed to be brought out to the curb. I'm not sure if that's what the applicant testified. Township has requirements for trash for commercial properties. I'm not sure he could bring it to the curb. So I didn't testify to that.
So do you know what the intent is in terms of the, and I don't think we had an opportunity to comment on Mr. Kennedy's testimony, so I welcome his comment, but what is the intent in terms of bringing that trash out once it's brought to the trash room by all the tenants, and how does that get brought out of the building and where?
Okay, I defer to Mr. Kennedy to answer that.
Yeah, I'm sure that it'll go out the easement to Glenridge Avenue to be picked up or carted away.
If I can point out something, I believe commercial uses are required to use dumpsters.
For private carters.
Or private
carters. And we have dumpsters. We're creating a dumpster enclosure area in the new parking deck where the trash can be stored.
So if that was the case, Janice, they'd still have to bring it out that back rear.
Yeah, I think that because we don't really want it for commercial uses being brought out to the street. We've got a dumpster enclosure area where it can be stored away from the street and picked up on a regular basis.
Got it. I think the board, I appreciate a lot of questions, comments on some of the other issues, so I'm not going to repeat those. I think I got understanding and some answers to those questions. I guess a couple final questions, and I guess this is open to Mr. Kennedy or Mr. Sionis. Again, I don't think Mr. Kennedy, or I had an opportunity to question him, but the residential proposal addition, can that be converted later to 2 separate apartments, or that's designed for really one tenant, 2-floor, well, actually 3-floor use with the roof terrace?
No, it cannot be. It's designed for one single unit, one kitchen, one hot water heater, one HVA system. but it cannot be converted to two families. It can't be converted. The building can't have more than 2 residential units unless we install a full-size elevator, and a full-size elevator requires a gurney and 2 EMTs, corner to corner. And so there's no room in that building for a full-size elevator, so it stops at 2 residential units.
Got it. Okay. And the existing roof, I think Mr. Wynn asked a question. I'm not sure if I got the answer, and I apologize if you did. I don't want to prolong this, but the roof currently is not used by the existing residential tenant, correct?
That is correct.
So that's those glass doorways that we were looking in that one photograph. That's not a doorway. Those are windows where you have that high light near the gable. I guess that's sheet 4.
Yeah, John, those are currently windows, but they'll be doors later.
So that would be converted to doors. And then is there any improvement? I understand that air conditioning unit has already been removed or is to be removed. Is there any improvements proposed on that, what is proposed to be that new roof deck for the first floor existing tenant?
No other improvements. No, you mean no fixtures or anything like that? No.
I guess other than the lighting that we've talked a little bit about, but beyond that, nothing.
That's correct.
And nothing proposed in terms of baffling noise or anything like that.
Actually, the removal of those 2 8-ton air conditioning units is a huge improvement to the volume of the noise that's normally in that area.
And those air conditioning units are actually, or were, one or both are owned by my client.
Neither one of them are owned by your client. Those 2 air conditioning units on that lower deck are owned by me.
Got it. But my client has an easement that runs through 2025 for the use of that roof for air conditioning units. Isn't that right?
No, that is not correct, John. Your client's easement is for the upper deck in that picture on slide 4, and you can see their air conditioning unit on the top deck. That entire area is undisturbed by this project.
Got it. Okay. All right. I think that answers my questions. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions from other members of the public? All right, Mr. Chumulak, get further witnesses?
No further witnesses. That completes our case.
I would like to better understand the easement that we're dealing with here for the rear of the property. I think I'd like our attorney to weigh in on what his interpretation is of the easement.
Do you need that right now?
Well, I don't necessarily at 11:30 in the evening. I don't necessarily fairly feel, because I took a quick look at the documents. There's a couple of different documents that need to be looked at and considered, as far as I can tell from the brief glance.
I mean, that last reference to the fact that there might be some encumbrance on the roof needs to be looked at.
Would like to understand that.
I mean, generally,
and I think
it sounds like the parties aren't happy, but that's not really the board's problem.
Well, I would also like to better understand the parking options here too. And even if we were to grant a variance, I think we need to be concerned about enforcement. So I would propose at this point that we carry this hearing to another date to give us time to consider the easements and the other issues before we proceed any further on this. Mr. Chairman?
I don't think the applicant has an objection to that, Mr. Chairman. I think we'd like to take a look at a few things to try to address some of the concerns that have been raised. And also, of course, given the hour, we would not object if the board wishes to carry this to a future meeting.
Can you waive the time in which we have to act?
Of course.
You're awesome. The one thing, Mr. Chairman, I didn't say earlier because I didn't want to interrupt is that if you do work out an arrangement for parking someplace else, we will impose it on future owners to do a deed restriction.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Carmel?
Yeah, because of the situation with the Orange Road deck, not quite knowing who has bids on it, I'd like to know, and I'd like to be sure that we're keeping tabs on who has access or who commitments are made with respect to the Midtown deck, too, so we know when we look at an application like this, what is potentially available. Can that be assessed?
I don't think that we have that information for the Midtown parking, for the Midtown deck.
Example, we had the other application on Glen Ridge Avenue that we approved, and part of the presentation was that the tenants there will have parking at the Midtown deck. So it's somebody keeping track of that. So we know that that's.
I think what they can. I don't think that the tenants had parking on site in that instance. It was, I believe that it was the art gallery. The users of the art gallery would use the Midtown deck.
You get what I'm saying? Is that we need to have.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Carmel, that we do need to keep track of the commitments of all the decks.
Yes.
We've been, and this has come up before, and whenever we have any kind of application that wants to make use of one of these decks, we need to have a clear picture of how the deck is already committed. And I did say this before when we had the application on the art studio. And, you know, this is going to come up again for sure. So there's some way that we need to have whatever listing, whether it be simply, you know, the type of analysis that the mayor presented to us earlier, you know, that shows us basically as much information as we have at the present time, you know, in addition to the more detailed information that we can get from the decks that are already constructed and committed. So, but this is something that we have to do going forward, definitely.
Thank you.
Janice, when would we be able to put this on to continue?
October 5th.
Right around the corner.
I hate to say this, I have a conflict with that. I actually have 2 other meetings that night. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that, even virtually. What
How about
would be,
October 19th?
that's fine for me.
Laptop in one hand and cell phone in the other, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, well, I might be able to pull off 2. I'm not sure about 3.
That's what those toes are for, man.
All right. Well, then we will continue this to, what was the date again, Janice? The
October 19th.
October 19th, and no further notice will be issued. And Mr. Galvin, if you can get back to us on what you believe the easement says and doesn't say, between now and then, at least at least a week or so in advance of the next hearing.
I would encourage Alan and the other attorney, who I didn't catch his name on the phone, to give me their view of it, and then I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, I'm sure Mr. Golden and I will be talking about that.
All right.
Okay.
Very good. All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Okay, so we
All right.
still have,
Go ahead, Janice.
right, we still have bills to pay.
Well, I have no questions on the bills and would move to approve them.
Is there
I
a
will
second?
second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
All right, everybody. Thanks. Go ahead, Janice. Go ahead.
All right. Do you need a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I will move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed?
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for hanging in there with us. And we'll see you next time.
All right.
Night.
Sounds good.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.